My name is Crystal, and I feel like I don't have anyone in this world, so I'm sharing my story here. I've watched my husband become someone I don't recognize, a monster. I don't know how many of you have happy love stories, but I envy those who married their soulmates and are now living their best lives. I thought I was marrying my soulmate, Seth, but I was wrong. I married Seth out of love. We both had stable jobs and a good relationship before we got married. However, after we tied the knot, Seth suddenly quit his job without even talking to me about it first. He said, "Look, Crystal, I was getting depressed and burnt out at my last job, so I needed to quit. I'll apply for a new job soon, but I need a break. You'll have to support us until then." I replied, "I'm sorry you're feeling down, Seth, but you should have consulted me or told me that you were going to quit. I needed a heads up." He brushed it off, saying, "It's not a big deal, Crystal. It's just for a few months. After that, things will go back to normal." But things never went back to normal. I had to take on 2 jobs to support us, while Seth just sat around playing games all day. He didn't even help around the house. Even after months went by, things only got worse. I don't have a college degree, so I couldn't get high-paying jobs. We barely managed to get by, but after a few months, we couldn't even afford the rent. That's when we had to ask for help from Seth's parents, Cole and Olivia. They were shocked to find out Seth had quit his job. They said, "Seth, what is wrong with you? You're going back to your old habits again. This is unacceptable." I asked, "What do you mean?" Seth is a hard-working man, and I always knew him that way. This situation is unexpected. He hasn't been doing well mentally. They replied, "You don't know everything, Crystal. Seth has done this multiple times. He quits his jobs and then expects us to take care of him. Last time we threatened to cut him off if he didn't get a job. We forced him to go back to work, and after that he met you. We thought he had genuinely changed, but now we see he is back to his old ways. He says he is depressed, and he visited many therapists, but they all said there was nothing wrong with him. He was just playing us for free money." I was shocked to hear this about Seth. Believe me, during the 2 years we were in a relationship, Seth was a consistent worker. He never did anything like this. It only happened after the wedding. I had no idea this was a pattern. Seth tried to defend himself, saying, "Dad, you saw that I changed my ways. This is really an exceptional situation. We just need a little help for now. I'll find a job soon." His parents told him, "You better stick to your word, Seth. We won't let you mooch off your wife. She's a good person and deserves happiness. We will let you stay at one of our properties for free, but you have to promise to get a job soon. We will kick you out if you continue this behavior." I assured them, "Thank you so much. Seth will work on his problems. Thank you for helping us until then." Seth also promised his parents that he would find a job, but he never did. Instead, he lied to them about having a job, while I was the one working hard to support our family. I kept quiet because I loved him and didn't want to pressure him. Slowly, our finances got worse. I was barely making ends meet, while Seth continued to waste time. In fact, he got angry with me when I couldn't bring in more money each month. He even warned me not to take days off to avoid missing a day's wage. I was exhausted and isolated from everyone. Seth hated it when I went out with friends. I was foolish and too in love to see the truth, so I stayed like this for a year. Yes, for an entire year. I worked like a slave and reduced myself to nothing. One day, I had enough and took a day off from both my jobs. When Seth saw that I didn't go to work, he said, "Why are you home, Crystal? You should be at work making money." I took the day off and said to Seth, "If I keep working like this, I'll die, Seth. This is unacceptable." He replied angrily, "Who told you that you can take a break? I warned you about this, Crystal, and you didn't listen." I shot back, "How can you be so cruel, Seth? For a whole year, I worked like a slave while you enjoyed my money. You isolated me from my friends because you didn't want me going out and spending money. This is hell, Seth. I deserve a day off and I will go out. You'll have to deal with it." I ran out of the house crying because I was hurt and needed to get away from him. I walked around the city and did some window shopping, but I didn't have much money to buy anything. Over the past year, I lost most of the money I had saved, and it was all because of Seth. I was truly getting frustrated with him. He had stopped showing me any affection a long time ago. Now all he did was yell at me about wasting time or not bringing in enough money. I really didn't know what to do. After being out for most of the day, I returned home in the evening. I walked up to the house and tried to unlock the door with my key. The lock turned, but the door wouldn't open. I realized it was bolted from the inside. I was confused, so I knocked on the door. I knew Seth was home, but he didn't answer. After a while, I started shouting, "Seth, open the door. I'm outside and it's freezing. I'm going to catch a cold." Seth replied, "I'm not going to open the door." I was shocked. "Are you joking, Seth? This isn't funny. Open the door." He continued, "You think you can disrespect me and ignore my warnings. That will never happen, Crystal. You need to learn a lesson. I'm not going to let you into the house today. You can stay outside or go wherever you came from." "What are you talking about, Seth? Are you locking me out because I took a day off from work? This is ridiculous, Seth. Let me in." "Knock all you want, Crystal. I'm not letting you in. Consider this a lesson for you." "I don't want you to ever behave this way again," Seth said, then started ignoring me completely. He didn't open the door and stopped responding to my calls. I kept pounding on the door and calling him, but he wouldn't answer. I was starting to freeze and didn't know what to do. Like a fool, I decided to wait a little longer, hoping his anger would disappear. I thought Seth wouldn't be so cruel as to actually lock me out of the house, but I was wrong. I sat there for 2 hours before I realized how abusive my husband had become. At that point, I felt completely alone. Seth had isolated me from my friends, and I didn't have any family in this state. I didn't know where to take shelter for the night. The cold was creeping in, and I started shaking from the chills. After thinking for a while, I decided to seek help from the only 2 people I knew well enough. I got into my car and drove straight to my in-laws' house. They were my only hope in this horrible situation. I knew they were good people and would help me out. I raced to their house and knocked on their door. Cole opened the door and was surprised to see me. After letting me in, he asked, "Hey, Crystal, what's the matter? Why are you crying? Oh my God, you poor thing, what's wrong? Is Seth okay? Why did you come alone?" "Seth locked me out of the house, guys. I was sitting outside for 2 hours before I drove here." "What the hell, Crystal? Why did he lock you out? What kind of prank is this? Don't tell me he's getting influenced by all those videos he watches." "No, Cole, he wasn't pranking me. He locked me out because I took a day off work. He doesn't like it when I take a break. I've been working 2 jobs to support us and I was feeling burnt out, so I went window shopping for a day. It's not like I can buy anything. I don't have money." Cole was shocked. "What in the world, Crystal? Why are you working 2 jobs? Seth has been telling us that he's earning enough for both of you. He even said he's asking you to leave your job and take a break. He's been lying to you guys. He never got a job after he left his last one. I don't think he ever sent any applications. He's been pestering me for money, so I had to take up 2 jobs. He gets upset when I take a day off because it means I'll get less money next month." I started to cry and poured my heart out to his parents. I knew he had been keeping them in the dark. I had supported his lies because I didn't want them to disown him. I loved a man who didn't even care about me. My pain and shame became too much for me to handle, so I broke down. His parents were horrified to know that their son had become abusive toward me. They were even angrier than I was. Cole started cursing out loud while Olivia quietly patted my back. When I was done crying, Cole said, "Crystal, don't worry. You are not alone. We are going to get you out of this situation. I can't believe our son has turned into a monster. I wonder where we went wrong with him. This is horrible. Crystal, please don't cry. We will figure out something, I promise." "I don't know what to do, guys," I said. "Truth be told, I don't even want to be in the same house as him. I don't know what to do or where to go." "Don't worry about those things, Crystal," Cole replied. "We'll take care of it. Let's go back to the house. I will go with you. It's time we taught Seth a lesson he'll remember." Cole took me to our house while Olivia stayed behind, as she was sure she would slap Seth if she saw him. When Cole and I got there, we knocked on the door, but Seth didn't open it. I heard him scream that he wasn't letting me in. I said, "Seth, open the door. It's been 3 hours already. How much longer are you going to punish me?" "As long as I want, Crystal. You didn't listen to me when I told you not to take a break. Now I'm not going to listen to you. See what it feels like." "You are insane, Seth. I was taking a break for 1 day. 1 freaking day. That doesn't mean I deserve to spend so many hours outside. You deserve to spend the night outside since you were so desperate for a break. You can stay out and take as much time as you need. I am not opening the door. You can keep knocking. Seth, open the damn door right now, Cole yelled. Open it or God help me, I will break this door down. After Cole called out to him, there was immediate silence. Seth knew he had messed up. He opened the door once he heard his father's voice. He immediately panicked and ran to get the door. When he saw us, he got even more nervous. His dad looked very serious, with a mean frown on his face. Seth nervously said, "Hey Dad, what brought you here? You didn't say you would stop by." "Drop the chit-chat, Seth. Tell me, who the hell are you to lock my daughter-in-law out of the house? Did you forget the fact that I own the place you live in?" "Dad, it's not like that," Seth said. "I was just pranking Crystal. It's not what you think it is. We were just joking around, right, Crystal?" "It is exactly what you think, Cole," I replied. "Seth kicked me out of the house because I took a day off work. He has been working me to the bone while spending my money and sitting around at home." "Seth, why the hell is Crystal telling me you left your job without even consulting with her? I let you stay here on the condition that you would work on yourself for your family. Then why am I hearing this about you?" At this point, Seth knew we had him in a corner. His lies were unraveling, and he had nowhere to hide. I would never have told people about my useless husband if it weren't for my pride. But he underestimated the power of a woman who has been abused for too long. I wasn't going to sit idle and take his abuse anymore. I was going to ruin him. Still, Seth tried his best to save himself. He said, "Dad, it's not like that. I swear I'm looking for jobs. It's just taking time. You know how bad the job market is right now. I've sent so many applications, but I haven't heard back from them yet." "Oh really, Seth? Well, why don't you show me all the job applications you have sent? Then we will decide if you are telling the truth." "Why do you need to see proof? Don't you believe your own child? This is ridiculous." "I don't need to show you any kind of proof. I'm telling you that I have sent numerous applications." No, Seth hadn't sent any applications. I knew that very well. He never tried to get another job after quitting his last one. He just planned to sit around and spend my money. Even Cole could understand that his son was up to no good. There was no way that Seth was telling the truth since he wasn't going to say anything. I said, "He hasn't sent out any applications, Cole. That's why he isn't showing you the proof. A position opened up at my office, and I told him to apply. He didn't and instead screamed at me, saying, 'How dare you tell me what to do? Seth, your mother and I allowed you to stay here so you could turn your life around. You fooled us into thinking you got a job and were contributing to your family. Now I see you're making Crystal work for the two of you while you do nothing but spend her money. Since you haven't held up your end of the bargain, I'm going to evict you from this house." "What? Dad, no. Please don't do that. Where will we go? You can't just kick us out like that. Crystal, look what you've gotten us into now. We'll both lose the roof over our heads. There is no point shouting at her, Seth. Crystal will come to stay with us, or in this house. You are the one getting kicked out. You don't have to worry about where Crystal will stay." "This is unfair. Crystal and I are a couple, so you can't separate us. You can't separate a married couple, for God's sake. I go where my wife goes, and that's final. If Crystal wants to stay married to me, she has to take me where she goes." "Yeah, well, in that case, I won't stay married to you anymore. I made that decision a while back, Seth. There is no way I'm going to continue this marriage. I will be divorcing you." Seth was dumbstruck by what I said. He didn't expect 2 blows in one night alone. All his life, he used the people around him to fund his expenses to some extent. For the last year, he managed to throw all his responsibilities on others. He expected life to continue like that. However, that was not going to happen. His parents and I were going to stand up for ourselves. Seth understood that he had just nuked his life at that point. He suddenly changed his demeanor. He cried and begged me not to leave him. He said, "Crystal, don't do this. You can't be serious. You're throwing away so many years of our relationship for a small mistake. Look, I know I shouldn't have locked you out, but it was just one day. We can work this out." "No, it wasn't just one day, Seth. You have been financially abusing me for the past year. You drained my savings and left me with nothing. You didn't even help me with house chores and complained when I asked. 1 year of this torture is enough, Seth. Not anymore. I am leaving. Crystal, you're being unreasonable. We can talk this out. Fine, I will start applying for jobs tomorrow. I'm sure I'll find something soon. Once I get a job, we can go to therapy and fix this, right? I know you well enough to know that you will not do any of that. I suggested all of those things last year. You ignored me and called me names every time. I know that if I listen to you now, you'll act like you've changed, but then you'll go back to how things are now. Dad, please help me convince Crystal. See, I'm willing to change, but she's not listening to me at all. Who's at fault here, Seth? Crystal is doing the right thing by divorcing you. You don't have the right to hold her back. Her logic is completely on point. She's a good girl, and I don't want her to waste her life with an abusive man like you anymore. Crystal, you can come over to our place and stay there until Seth is kicked out. I'll wait here while you pack your bags. I took the chance and went straight to my room to get my stuff. As promised, Cole waited for me downstairs while Seth tried to make him change his mind. To be honest, I didn't trust Seth anymore, and staying with him in this house after the confrontation would be too risky, so I took Cole's offer to stay with them. I could hear Seth shouting and crying downstairs. Cole remained passive to everything and waited quietly for me. I got my stuff and went downstairs. Seth tried to physically block me with his body. That's when Cole shouted at him about calling the police. Seth got scared and let me go. Back at my in-laws' place, Olivia took one look at us and immediately went to hug me. For some reason, her tender move brought me back to tears. It had been ages since someone held me like that or showed me any bit of affection. It made me realize how much I lost by marrying Seth. His own parents loved me more than he did. Olivia brought me into the house and assured me I could stay with them as long as I wanted, so I decided to stay there for the time being. I didn't file for divorce straight away. Why? Because I needed Seth to get back on his feet to avoid paying him alimony. Seth would be forced to find work once the month was up, and he would have to move. Until then, he could enjoy half of whatever I had in our joint account. I transferred half of the funds into my account and left him with the rest. I promised myself not to send any funds into that account again. Seth tried his best to convince me to return to him. He showed up at his parents' place multiple times to get us to forgive him. We didn't, of course. In fact, this time, his mother verbally attacked him for being such a deadbeat. She even called him a poor excuse for a man. Seth was crying and begging for forgiveness. It was truly glorious. The month passed and Seth was forced to move out of the house. He tried to fight the move, which led to his parents almost calling the cops. I guess Seth was finding it hard to believe his parents were actually kicking him out. Anyway, since then, he has been couch surfing with his friends, but had to get a job, of course. I mean, who would host him for free day after day? Everyone knew about his bad habits of becoming a parasite on others. Seth couldn't find a good job, but he made do. As soon as he moved into a place, I filed for divorce. The process was easy because Seth didn't have any money for a lawyer. He resigned himself to his fate and let us get divorced. I didn't have to pay him any alimony because our income difference wasn't much. I left one of my jobs because I no longer needed to support another person. Plus, his parents were hosting me for free, which let me rebuild my savings. Anyway, we split amicably because we didn't have the means to fight. He apologized to me multiple times, but I didn't forgive him. I'm now living in a 2-bedroom apartment with a roommate. Things are picking up for me. I visit Olivia and Cole since they have become my family as well. They are also refusing to forgive Seth, and it doesn't look like their relationship will ever go back to normal.
I never thought I'd be the type of person to snoop through my husband's things, but there I was. Hands trembling as I scrolled through his credit card statements at 2 a.m. The soft glow of my laptop screen illuminated our home office, and with each mysterious charge I found, my stomach twisted tighter. My name is Margot, and until tonight, I thought I had the kind of marriage other people envied. 15 years together, a beautiful 7-year-old son, and what I believed was open communication about everything, especially money. The numbers on the screen told a different story. Multiple charges at high-end restaurants where Ethan claimed he was sourcing ingredients for our family restaurant. Hotel charges in neighboring cities when he said he was at supplier meetings. The most recent one was from yesterday, for $100 at some place called La Rose that I'd never heard of. I heard footsteps on the stairs and quickly closed the laptop. Ethan appeared in the doorway, his chef's coat still on from closing the restaurant. "You're still up?" he asked, loosening his collar. "Everything okay?" I forced a smile. "Just finishing some work emails." "How was service tonight?" "Slow." He ran a hand through his dark hair. "Mom thinks we should change the menu again, make it more modern. But you know how I feel about messing with my dad's recipes." The mention of Dorothy, my mother-in-law, made me wince. She'd been pushing for changes at the restaurant for months, but Ethan wouldn't hear it. Now I wondered if his resistance to change was the least of our problems. "Actually," I said, "I wanted to talk about the business accounts. There are some charges I don't understand." His expression shifted, so subtle I almost missed it. A tightening around the eyes, a slight clench of his jaw. "What charges?" "La Rose?" "The Marriott in Springfield last week." I kept my voice steady, giving him room to explain. "Oh, those." He waved dismissively. "Just some meetings with potential investors. I was going to tell you once things were more concrete." "Investors?" I stood up, my chair scraping against the hardwood. "Since when are we looking for investors?" "Margot, please. It's late, and I'm tired. Can we not do this now?" "When should we do it, Ethan?" "When the restaurant's completely underwater. When we've burned through Luke's college fund." He stepped back like I'd slapped him. "Is that what you think of me?" "That I'd gamble with our son's future." I don't know what to think anymore. I pulled up the statements on my phone. These charges don't look like business meetings. They look like... Like what? His voice had an edge I'd never heard before. "Go ahead, say it." Before I could respond, a small voice came from the hallway. "Mommy? Daddy?" Luke stood there in his dinosaur pajamas, clutching his stuffed triceratops. My heart sank. How much had he heard? "Hey, buddy," Ethan said, his tone instantly softening. "Just grown-up talk. Let's get you back to bed." As Ethan led Luke away, I sat heavily in my chair, mind racing. The charges, the lies, his defensive reaction, it all pointed to something I didn't want to face. But there was more going on here than just secret meetings or hidden financial troubles. I could feel it in my bones. My phone buzzed with a text from Claire. "You up?" "Just saw Ethan's car at that new wine bar downtown. Thought he was working late." I stared at the message, my hands going cold. He'd just walked in wearing his chef's coat, claiming he'd been at the restaurant. Another lie. The question wasn't whether my husband was hiding something anymore. The question was, how far was I willing to go to uncover the truth? And more importantly, was I ready to face what I might find? Sunday dinners at Dorothy's house used to be a tradition I looked forward to. Now, watching my mother-in-law fuss over Ethan while pointedly ignoring my attempts to join their conversation. I felt like an outsider in what was supposed to be my family. "The carbonara is different tonight," Dorothy said, her fork hovering over her plate. "Ethan, darling, did you change your father's recipe?" I caught the slight tremor in Ethan's hand as he reached for his wine glass. "Just trying something new, Mom." "New isn't always better," she replied, shooting me a look that made her meaning clear. I'd been pushing for menu updates at the restaurant for months. Luke, sitting between us, pushed his pasta around his plate. "I like it, Daddy." "Thank you, buddy." Ethan's smile didn't reach his eyes. "At least someone appreciates innovation." "Speaking of innovation," I said, seizing the moment, "I've been looking at the restaurant's numbers. If we updated the menu and marketing strategy..." "Here we go again," Dorothy interrupted. "Always with the numbers and strategies. The restaurant was doing fine before you started meddling, Margot." "Mom," Ethan warned, but his defense felt hollow. I set down my fork, the metal clinking against fine china. "The restaurant is hemorrhaging money, Dorothy. Last month's profits barely covered the utilities." "And whose fault is that?" Dorothy's voice dripped with accusation. "Ever since you pushed Ethan to hire that new sous chef." "I think it's time for dessert," Ethan cut in, standing abruptly. "Luke, wanna help me serve the tiramisu?" After they left, Dorothy leaned forward. "My son had everything under control until you started filling his head with modern nonsense. The restaurant is his legacy, his father's legacy." "A legacy of debt won't help anyone," I replied, keeping my voice low. "Have you seen the credit card statements? The mysterious charges?" Something flickered across Dorothy's face. Concern? Recognition? Before her mask of disapproval returned. Ethan knows what he's doing. You need to trust him instead of trying to control everything. Before I could respond, Luke came bouncing back with a dessert plate. Nana, look what Daddy made. The conversation shifted, but I couldn't shake the feeling that Dorothy knew more than she was letting on. Throughout dessert, I watched her and Ethan exchange meaningful glances, speaking in that shorthand that mothers and sons develop over years. Later, as we were leaving, Dorothy pulled Ethan aside while I helped Luke with his coat. Their whispered conversation carried just enough for me to catch fragments. Careful with the, she's getting suspicious. Your father would understand. My phone buzzed. Another text from Claire. That wine bar? Just found out it's owned by someone named Isabella Romano. Ring any bells? The name hit me like a punch to the gut. Isabella Romano, Ethan's high school sweetheart, the one who got away. The one who'd moved back to town 6 months ago. Ready to go? Ethan appeared beside me, keys jingling in his hand. Actually, I said, I need to stop by the office. Year-end reports due tomorrow. The lie tasted bitter on my tongue, but no worse than the ones he'd been feeding me. On a Sunday night? Dorothy's disapproval radiated across the foyer. Really, Margot, family should come first. I met her gaze steadily. Sometimes protecting your family means working when you'd rather not. The drive home was silent except for Luke's soft snoring in the back seat. Ethan stared straight ahead, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. I watched his profile in the passing streetlights, wondering when my husband had become a stranger. As we pulled into our driveway, he finally spoke. I need to go back to the restaurant. Emergency with the walk-in cooler. I nodded, already pulling up the wine bar's location on my phone. Don't stay out too late. He hesitated, hand on the door handle. For a moment, I thought he might confess everything. Instead, he just said, don't wait up. I watched his taillights disappear around the corner, my resolve hardening. Tomorrow, I'd visit this wine bar myself. It was time to find out exactly what kind of legacy my husband was really protecting. La Rose turned out to be exactly what I'd feared, an intimate wine bar with mood lighting and cozy corners perfect for secret meetings. I sat at the bar, nursing a glass of Chianti, when I spotted them through the window, Ethan and Isabella. Walking arm in arm down the street like they were starring in their own romantic comedy. Claire squeezed my arm. You don't have to watch this. Yes, I do. My voice sounded hollow even to my own ears. I need to know exactly what I'm dealing with. They didn't come inside. Instead, they stopped at the corner, heads close together in conversation. Isabella reached up to straighten Ethan's collar, a gesture so intimate it made my stomach turn. Then she handed him what looked like a thick envelope. That's not a love letter, Claire murmured. Too big. I was already pulling up our joint banking app. The notification hit me like a slap, a transfer of $50,000 from our savings account, processed just hours ago. My hands shook as I dialed Ethan's number. He answered on the third ring, street noise in the background. Hey, I'm at the restaurant. Stop lying. The words came out sharp enough to make nearby patrons turn. I can see you right now with Isabella. What's in the envelope, Ethan? Silence stretched between us. Then, where are you? Where's our savings? I countered. The $50,000 you transferred today? More silence. Then I can explain everything. Meet me at the restaurant. No more private meetings. You want to explain? Come home. Now. 20 minutes later, we sat at our kitchen table, the same one where we'd planned our wedding, celebrated Luke's first words, mapped out our dreams. Now it felt like an interrogation room. Isabella's helping me save the restaurant, Ethan said, the envelope sitting between us like a bomb. She's buying in as a partner. A partner? The word tasted like acid. When were you planning to discuss this with your actual partner? Your wife. You wouldn't understand. You've been trying to change everything about the place. Because it's failing. I grabbed the stack of bills I'd collected. We're drowning in debt, Ethan. And instead of facing it together, you're making secret deals with your high school girlfriend. She understands the restaurant business. She respects tradition. She respects tradition? I laughed, the sound brittle. Is that what you tell yourself when you're having dinner with her instead of your family? When you're lying to your wife and son about where you are. His face darkened. Don't bring Luke into this. Luke's already in this. Every penny you're gambling on your precious traditions is coming out of his future. Ethan stood abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. I'm trying to secure his future. The restaurant is his inheritance. The restaurant is a money pit. I opened the envelope, spreading documents across the table. And this? This isn't a partnership agreement, Ethan. It's a buyout offer. The color drained from his face. What? Isabella's not trying to save your father's legacy. She's trying to buy it out from under you. Turn it into one of her trendy wine bars. I watched the realization hit him. Did you even read what you were getting into? He snatched the papers, scanning them with growing horror. This isn't. She said. She said what you wanted to hear. I stood up, suddenly exhausted. Just like you've been saying what you think I want to hear. How's that working out for everyone? The front door opened, Claire, bringing Luke back from their ice cream run. His happy chatter filled the house, and I watched Ethan quickly gather the papers, stuffing them out of sight. More secrets. I asked quietly. More lies. He met my eyes for the first time all evening. I'll fix this. No, I said, hearing Luke's footsteps on the stairs. I'll fix this. Starting tomorrow, I'm taking control of all our accounts. If you want to throw away your father's legacy, you'll have to do it without destroying our son's future. You can't. Watch me. I turned toward the stairs, plastering on a smile as Luke appeared. Hey, sweetie. How was ice cream with Aunt Claire? As Luke launched into an excited description of his Sunday, I caught Ethan's reflection in the window, lost, angry, and for the first time, afraid. Good. He should be afraid. Because this wasn't just about saving our money anymore. This was about survival. The bank statement stared back at me from my laptop screen, each transaction like a knife twist. College fund? Gone. Emergency savings? Drained. Joint accounts? Nearly empty. My hands shook as I clicked through the history, systematic withdrawals going back months, all traced to accounts I'd never seen before. Claire set a coffee mug in front of me. How bad is it? He's taken everything. My voice sounded distant, hollow. Almost $200,000, siphoned off bit by bit. For the restaurant? I laughed, a harsh sound that surprised us both. No, these transfers. They're going to personal accounts. Investment schemes. And get this, a down payment on a property in Isabella's name. The doorbell rang, making me jump. Through the window, I saw Dorothy's Mercedes in my driveway. Perfect timing. I've got this, I told Claire, squaring my shoulders. Could you check on Luke upstairs? Dorothy burst in before I could reach the door, brandishing her phone. What have you done? Ethan's beside himself. Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing. I pulled up the bank statements. Did you know about this, Dorothy? All these withdrawals. She barely glanced at the screen. A man has the right to protect his business. His business? I turned the laptop toward her. Show me which of these transactions was for the restaurant. The crypto investments? The property in Isabella's name? Dorothy's face flickered, just for a moment, but I caught it. She knew. Ethan's under tremendous pressure, she said, smoothing her designer skirt. If you'd been more supportive? More supportive? The words came out like ice. I've supported him through failed menu changes, through hiring his deadbeat friends, through every misguided decision. But this, I gestured at the screen. This is theft. Don't be dramatic. Luke's college fund, Dorothy. Your son stole your grandson's future. That landed. She sank into a chair, her carefully maintained facade cracking. He promised he would replace it. Said he had a sure thing. Like the sure thing with Isabella? I pulled up the property records I'd found. A waterfront restaurant space, purchased last week. Guess who's listed as co-owner? Dorothy's hands trembled as she reached for the laptop. No, he wouldn't. Already did. With our money meant for Luke's education, our retirement, our life together. I leaned forward. Still want to tell me how unsupportive I am? Footsteps on the stairs made us both turn. Luke appeared, clutching his backpack. Nah. Are you coming to my science fair? Dorothy's face crumpled. Not today, sweetheart. I need to. I need to talk to your father. After she left, I found myself staring at Luke's science fair project, a simple demonstration of cause and effect. If only adult life were that straightforward. My phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. We need to talk. Meet me at the restaurant. Not a chance, I typed back. You want to talk? Bring the account statements, investment records, and property documents. All of them. We'll talk here with our lawyers present. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, you're really going to do this? Destroy everything? I looked at Luke, now sitting at the dining table with Claire, working on his presentation. Everything that mattered was right here, and Ethan had risked it all for what? His ego? A second chance with an old flame? You destroyed it, I replied. I'm just documenting the wreckage. Another text came through, this time from Dorothy. He's not who I raised him to be. I'm so sorry, Margot. I closed my laptop, suddenly exhausted. The apology meant something, but it wouldn't replace Luke's college fund or repair our shattered trust. Mom? Luke called from the table. Can you help me practice my presentation? Of course, sweetie. I moved to join him, my resolve hardening with each step. Tomorrow, I'd call my lawyer. I'd freeze accounts, document everything, build a case. But right now, my son needed me to help him understand cause and effect, action and consequence. It was a lesson his father was about to learn the hard way. Claire's office felt like a sanctuary compared to the chaos my life had become. She pushed a steaming cup of tea across her desk along with a stack of papers that would change everything. The forensic accountant found more, she said, tapping the documents. A lot more. I flipped through the pages, each new discovery hitting harder than the last. Shell companies? Offshore accounts. My hands started shaking. How long has he been planning this? Based on the transactions? At least a year. Claire leaned forward. Margot, this isn't just about Isabella or the restaurant anymore. This is systematic fraud. My phone buzzed. Another message from Ethan. Luke keeps asking when I'm coming home. Can we talk? Just us. I switched off the phone. He's using our son now, trying to guilt me into backing down. Because he knows you're close to uncovering everything. Claire pulled out another document. Look at this, the waterfront property. It's just the beginning. There are permits filed for 3 more locations, all under Isabella's company name. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. He's not just leaving me, he's building an empire with her. Using our money, our future. A knock at Claire's door made us both jump. Through the glass, I saw Dorothy, looking smaller somehow, clutching her designer purse like a shield. I'll give you 2 a minute, Claire said, squeezing my shoulder as she left. Dorothy sat heavily in the vacant chair. I found these in Ethan's old room. She pulled out a stack of letters, yellowed with age. Love letters. From Isabella. He kept them all these years. Why are you showing me this? Because I enabled him. Her voice cracked. All those years, defending him, blaming you. I wanted so badly to believe he was still my perfect boy. She pushed the letters toward me. But he's been planning this since she came back. The restaurant was never failing. He was bleeding it dry on purpose. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Every argument about tradition, every resistance to change, it had all been a smokescreen. There's more, Dorothy continued. The night Frank, Ethan's father, died. He changed his will. Left controlling interest in the restaurant to Luke, not Ethan. He must have suspected something. And Ethan never knew? The lawyers were supposed to reveal it on Luke's 18th birthday. Dorothy's hands trembled. I should have told you sooner. Maybe then. My phone lit up again, Ethan, but this time with a photo. Luke at his science fair, looking lost without either parent there. The message below. He needs his family together. Don't make him pay for our mistakes. Something snapped inside me. Our mistakes. I stood up, gathering the forensic reports. No. This ends now. What are you going to do? I met her eyes steadily. I'm going to take everything, the restaurant, the properties, every penny he stole. Not for revenge, but because that money belongs to Luke. His father might have forgotten that, but I haven't. He'll fight you. Let him. I pulled up my email, copying my lawyer. I'm done protecting Ethan's ego at Luke's expense. If he wants a war, I'll give him one. Dorothy stood, straightening her shoulders. The family lawyers, the ones who know about Frank's will, I'll have them contact you. As she reached the door, she paused. Margot? Frank would have been proud to have you as a daughter-in-law. I'm sorry I wasn't. After she left, Claire returned, eyeing the scattered papers. You okay? No. I started organizing the documents, each page fueling my resolve. But I will be. First, I'm getting a restraining order to freeze all accounts and assets. Then I'm picking up my son from school. He deserves to know his mother chose him over everything else. And Ethan. I looked at the photo he'd sent, seeing it now for what it was. Not a plea for reconciliation, but another manipulation. Ethan chose his path 15 years ago when he kept those letters. He just needed Isabella to come back to finally walk it. I gathered my things, a strange calm settling over me. The time for tears and confusion was over. Now it was time for justice, not just for me, but for Luke and the legacy that should have been his all along. The restaurant was empty when I arrived, but the lights in the office were on. Through the window, I could see Ethan and Isabella huddled over paperwork, their heads close together. Just like old times, apparently. I pushed through the door, the familiar bell chiming overhead. The sound used to mean home. Now it felt like a warning. We're closed, Ethan called without looking up. Not to me. I dropped the stack of legal documents on their table. Not yet, anyway. Isabella straightened, her perfectly manicured hand still resting on Ethan's arm. I'll give you 2 a minute. Stay, I said. Since you're so invested in my family's future, you should hear this too. Ethan finally met my eyes. Margot, whatever you're thinking. I'm thinking about Luke's inheritance. I watched his face pale. The one your father left him. Interesting timing, wasn't it? Changing his will right before he died. Isabella's hand dropped from Ethan's arm. What inheritance? The controlling interest in this restaurant. I smiled, but it felt more like baring teeth. The one you two were planning to sell out from under my son. That's impossible. Ethan stood, papers scattering. Dad left everything to me. He didn't trust you. The words hit him like a physical blow. Maybe he saw something in you that I was too blind to notice. The selfishness. The lies. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I gestured to Isabella. You never got over her. Fine. But stealing from our son? Destroying his future for your second chance at young love? Isabella gathered her things, avoiding eye contact. I should go. Running away again? I asked. That's your specialty, isn't it? 15 years ago, you left him. Now you're helping him leave his family. That's enough. Ethan slammed his hand on the table. You don't get to come in here and what? Tell the truth. I pulled out my phone, showing them the restraining order. All accounts are frozen. The properties, the restaurant, everything. Until we sort out exactly what belongs to Luke. Isabella's face went white. Ethan, you said this was all legitimate. It is. He turned to her, desperate. Baby, I can explain. The pet name hung in the air between us, and suddenly I was 17 again, watching them in the school hallway. History repeating itself, only this time with my son's future as collateral damage. I'll have my lawyer contact you, Isabella said, gathering her things. At the door, she paused. I'm sorry, Margot. I didn't know about Luke's inheritance. After she left, Ethan seemed to deflate. You've ruined everything. No, I said quietly. You did that all on your own. He sank into a chair, running his hands through his hair. What do you want? Money? The restaurant? I want you to look me in the eye and tell Luke why his college fund is gone. Why his father chose his high school girlfriend over his son's future. Don't bring him into this. He's already in this. My voice cracked. He's been in this since the day you started stealing from him. God, Ethan, he worships you. Wants to be just like his daddy. How's that working out for everyone? My phone buzzed. Claire, watching Luke at home. He's asking for both of you. What should I tell him? The message hit me like a punch to the gut. While we were here fighting over money and old flames, our son was waiting for his parents to come home. We're done here, I said, gathering the papers. The lawyers will handle the rest. Margot, wait. Ethan's voice was small. What if? What if I can fix this? Pay everything back. I turned at the door, taking in the restaurant, the faded photos of his father, the worn booths where we'd planned our future, the kitchen where he'd taught Luke to make pasta. All of it tainted now. Some things can't be fixed, Ethan. Some betrayals run too deep. Outside, the night air hit me like a slap. My phone buzzed again. Dorothy this time. Isabella just left town. Cleaned out their joint accounts first. I leaned against my car, laughing until tears came. Of course she ran. She always did. But this time, she took what was left of our family's future with her. The only question now was, how do you rebuild from absolute zero? The knock at my door came at midnight. I knew who it was before I opened it. Ethan had always had terrible timing. You can't just show up here, I said, keeping my voice low. Luke was finally asleep upstairs after crying himself out, asking why Daddy hadn't come to his science fair presentation. I got a job offer. Ethan looked haunted, his usually pristine chef's coat wrinkled and stained. In Seattle. Running a restaurant group. Congratulations. Is that all? He held up an envelope. It's from Isabella's company. They want to make it right. Full restitution, plus interest. Everything I took, paid back. I laughed, the sound harsh in the quiet night. Let me guess, you just have to move across the country to get it? I could send money back. For Luke. Make things right. Right. The word tasted like poison. You want to make things right by abandoning your son? Again. I'm trying to fix this. Lower your voice, I hissed. If you wake Luke. Mommy? The small voice from the stairs made us both freeze. Luke stood there in his dinosaur pajamas, clutching his science fair ribbon. Daddy? Ethan's face crumpled. Hey, buddy. I'm sorry I missed your presentation. Did you come to see my project? Luke's face lit up with hope so pure it hurt to watch. Actually, Ethan swallowed hard. I came to say, I'm going away for a while. For work. The hope died in Luke's eyes. Like when you went in meetings with Miss Isabella? The innocent question hit like a slap. Ethan staggered back as if physically struck. Luke, it's not. I mean, is it because I didn't win first place? Luke's voice trembled. I'll do better next time, I promise. No, sweetheart, I moved to the stairs, but Luke was already running back up them, his small feet thundering like my heartbeat. Luke, wait. Ethan called, but I blocked his path. You don't get to chase him now. Not when you're running away again. I'm not running. I'm trying to make things right. By taking Isabella's blood money? Trading your son for a fresh start. What choice do I have? His voice cracked. The restaurant's gone. Our savings are gone. At least this way. At least this way you get to start over with a clean conscience? I pulled out my phone, showing him the email I'd received hours earlier. Funny thing, Dorothy already contacted Isabella's company. Told them about Luke's inheritance, about the fraud. Want to guess how fast they withdrew that job offer? The color drained from his face. You didn't. I didn't have to. Your mother did. Turns out she's finally choosing her grandson over her son. A thud from upstairs made us both look up. Luke appeared again, dragging his suitcase, the one we'd used for our last family vacation, before everything fell apart. I want to go with Daddy, he announced, chin trembling but determined. Ethan broke. Luke, you can't. I mean, I'm not. Why not? Luke demanded, tears starting. You don't want me either? The question hung in the air like shattered glass. I watched Ethan's face as the full weight of his choices finally hit him, not in lost money or failed schemes, but in his son's broken trust. I'll always want you, buddy, he whispered. But sometimes daddies make mistakes they can't fix. Like when I broke Mommy's favorite vase? Luke asked. She was mad, but she still loved me. I caught Ethan's eye, saw the moment he realized what he was throwing away, not just his son's love, but his chance to deserve it. This is different, he said finally. Some breaks. They can't be glued back together. Luke dropped his suitcase, the thud echoing like a judge's gavel. Without another word, he ran to me, burying his face in my legs. Go, I told Ethan. But remember this moment. Remember what you chose. He stepped back into the night, leaving behind the envelope of promises he couldn't keep. As I held our sobbing son, I realized some victories feel more like funerals, necessary, but heavy with the weight of what's being buried. 6 months later, I stood in the renovated restaurant kitchen, watching Luke carefully roll pasta dough just like his grandfather had taught him in old home videos. Dorothy stood beside him, gently guiding his small hands. Just like that, she said softly. Frank would be so proud. The restaurant's grand reopening was tomorrow. Not as Ethan's failing tribute to the past, but as Luke's inheritance reimagined. The walls now displayed both old family photos and Luke's artwork. The menu balanced traditional recipes with modern touches. A bridge between generations, just like Frank had wanted. Mom? Luke looked up, flour dusting his cheeks. Can we put Grandpa Frank's carbonara on the kids' menu? Of course, sweetheart. I caught Dorothy's eye, saw the tears. She quickly blinked away. It's your restaurant, after all. The bell chimed up front. Claire's voice carried from the dining room. Special delivery. Luke ran out, leaving his pasta half-rolled. Through the kitchen window, I watched him open the envelope Claire brought, his first official profit statement from the restaurant's trust. Wow, he exclaimed. That's a lot of zeros. All going straight to your college fund, I reminded him, following him out. Just like Grandpa Frank wanted. Speaking of Frank's wishes, Dorothy pulled out an envelope of her own. The lawyers found this in his old files. It's for you, Margot. The letter was dated just days before Frank's death. Dear Margot, I'm leaving the restaurant to Luke because he has your heart and my passion for food. But more importantly, because he has you to guide him. You've always seen what this place could be, not just what it was. Take care of my grandson's inheritance and don't let anyone, not even my son, stand in the way of progress. With love and trust, Frank. He knew, I whispered. About Ethan, about everything. Dorothy squeezed my hand. Frank always said you were the daughter he'd wished for. Now I understand why. The kitchen door chimed again. This time, a familiar figure stood awkwardly in the entrance. Ethan, looking older somehow, holding a small package. Luke went still. Daddy? Hey, buddy. Ethan's voice cracked. I found these in Seattle. Grandpa's original recipe cards. I stepped forward, but Dorothy beat me to it. Perhaps those belong to the restaurant's owner now. Ethan nodded, holding the package out to Luke. I thought maybe they could help you learn the family recipes. If you want. Luke took the cards carefully, then surprised us all by hugging his father. Want to see my pasta? Nana's teaching me, from the videos. As they disappeared into the kitchen, Claire sidled up to me. You okay? I watched through the window as Luke showed Ethan his rolling technique, Dorothy hovering nearby. The scene looked almost normal, except for the invisible walls between us all, walls built of broken trust and hard-learned lessons. You know, I said, I spent so long wanting revenge. Wanting to make Ethan hurt like we hurt. I touched Frank's letter in my pocket. But this is better. Building something new from the ashes of what he destroyed. Speaking of building, Claire grinned, pulling up a news article on her phone. Guess whose Seattle restaurant venture just went bankrupt? I handed the phone back without reading further. That's not our story anymore. The kitchen filled with laughter, Luke attempting to teach Ethan the proper way to knead dough. The sound was complicated, like family itself. Not quite healing, but not quite broken either. Dorothy joined us, watching her son and grandson. Sometimes the best revenge is simply moving forward. No, I corrected her gently. Sometimes the best revenge is remembering what actually matters. Through the window, Luke caught my eye and beamed, flower-covered and happy. Tomorrow, we'd open the doors to a new chapter. Not the ending I'd once imagined, but maybe a better one, built on truth, trust, and a 7-year-old's unwavering belief in second chances. Even if some of those chances had to be earned one pasta roll at a time.
I never thought a simple phone notification would shatter my world. But there it was, lighting up my husband Mark's screen while he showered, a message preview that made my stomach drop. I miss our talks. Lunch again tomorrow. My name is Grace, and until that moment, I was living what I thought was a perfectly normal life as a stay-at-home mom to our 6-year-old daughter, Lily. The kind of life where your biggest daily crisis is getting paint stains out of your kid's favorite dress or making sure dinner doesn't burn while helping with homework. I stood there in our bedroom, Mark's phone in my hand, my thumb hovering over the screen. The rational part of me said to put it down. The other part, the part that had noticed Mark working later and later, coming home with a distant look in his eyes, that part won out. "Mom, where are my purple socks?" Lily's voice carried up from downstairs, making me jump. "Check the laundry basket, sweetie," I called back, my voice surprisingly steady despite my trembling hands. The shower was still running. I had time. 3 swipes later, I was staring at weeks of messages between Mark and someone named Andrea from sales. They started innocently enough, work discussions, meeting confirmations. But as I scrolled up, the tone shifted. Inside jokes, personal details, plans for private lunches. "Found them!" Lily shouted triumphantly. The shower stopped. I quickly placed Mark's phone back exactly where I'd found it and busied myself with making the bed, my mind racing. The messages weren't explicitly romantic, but there was an intimacy there that made my chest ache. "Hey, have you seen my blue tie?" Mark emerged from the bathroom, towel around his waist, water droplets still clinging to his shoulders. He looked exactly the same as he had yesterday, but somehow everything was different. "The one with stripes?" I kept my voice casual, smoothing the comforter with shaking hands. "It's in the dry cleaning pile." He frowned. "I needed that one for the meeting with Richard today." There was an edge to his voice that I'd been hearing more often lately. "You know how particular he is about appearances." "I can grab it from the cleaners this morning," I offered, but he was already shaking his head. "Don't bother. I'll figure something out." He turned to the closet, effectively dismissing me. I watched him get ready, going through his usual morning routine. Every movement seemed loaded with new meaning. Was he choosing that shirt because Andrea liked it? Was he checking his phone so much because of her? "Daddy, can you drive me to school today?" Lily appeared in the doorway, purple socks proudly displayed, her backpack nearly as big as she was. "Not today, princess. I've got an early meeting." Mark barely looked up from his phone as he knotted a different tie around his neck. Lily's face fell and something inside me snapped. This wasn't just about me anymore. Whatever was happening with Mark was affecting our daughter too. "I'll take you, baby," I said, reaching for her hand. "We can listen to your favorite songs on the way." As we headed downstairs, Mark called after us. "Don't forget I have that dinner thing tonight. Don't wait up." "Dinner thing," I repeated under my breath, the words tasting bitter. How many of those dinner things had actually been lunches with Andrea? I helped Lily into her car seat, my mind already spinning with possibilities. I could confront Mark directly. I could try to catch them together. I could pretend I knew nothing and gather more evidence. But as I started the car and caught sight of my daughter's face in the rearview mirror, so innocent, so trusting, I knew one thing for certain. Whatever I decided to do next would change everything. And I needed to make sure those changes would be for the better. For both of us. The call from Lily's school came just as I was setting up my easel in the spare room. My daughter had pushed another kid during recess, completely out of character for my usually sweet little girl. As I drove to pick her up, my mind kept drifting to the half-finished canvas I'd left behind. Painting had become my escape lately, the only place where the mess in my head made sense. "She's normally such a good student," Miss Thompson said, while Lily sat slumped in a chair beside her desk. "But lately she's been distracted, acting out." I knelt in front of Lily, noting the dark smudges under her eyes. "What happened, baby?" Tommy said I was lying. Lily's bottom lip trembled. "He said daddies don't have special friends at work." The air left my lungs. I forced myself to keep my expression neutral, even as my heart hammered against my ribs. What made you tell Tommy about Daddy's friend? I heard you talking to Aunt Sarah on the phone. Lily picked at a loose thread on her skirt. You said Daddy has a special friend named Andrea. Miss Thompson shifted uncomfortably in her chair. I felt my cheeks burn, knowing this would be through the parent grapevine by dinner. On the drive home, my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Coffee? You look like you could use a friend right now. 20 minutes later, we sat in her studio, surrounded by her vibrant abstract paintings. Sarah pushed a steaming mug into my hands. Spale. Lily's acting out at school because of Mark's. Whatever it is with Andrea. I took a shaky sip. I should have been more careful talking about it. No, Mark should have been more careful sneaking around. Sarah grabbed one of her canvases, turning it to face me. Remember this one? From your first art class? I smiled despite myself. Painting was terrible, all muddy colors and uncertain brushstrokes. You were such a patient teacher. And you were a natural once you stopped doubting yourself. She paused, studying me. The local gallery is accepting submissions for their summer showcase. You should enter. I nearly choked on my coffee. I haven't shown my work since before Lily was born. Exactly. Time to remind everyone, including Mark, that you're more than just someone's wife and mother. That evening, I was working on a new painting when Mark came home early for once. He stopped in the doorway of my makeshift studio, frowning at the drop cloths and art supplies. What's all this? His tone was light, but I caught the tension in his jaw. Just getting back into painting. I kept working, adding touches of deep blue to the canvas. The school called today. Lily got in trouble. What? Why didn't you tell me immediately? He pulled out his phone, probably checking for missed messages. You were in meetings. I couldn't keep the edge from my voice. With Andrea, I assume? The silence that followed was deafening. When I finally looked up, Mark's face had gone carefully blank. We need to focus on Lily right now. This hobby can wait. It's not a hobby. I set down my brush. And Lily's acting out because she knows something's wrong at home. She can feel it. Nothing's wrong except you turning our spare room into an art gallery instead of dealing with our daughter. He turned to leave, then paused. Clean this up before someone tracks paint through the house. After he left, I stared at my painting, a stormy seascape with a single lighthouse standing defiant against the waves. Sarah was right. It was time to stop hiding my light. I pulled out my phone and photographed my 3 best pieces. The gallery submission deadline was tomorrow. My hands shook as I filled out the online form, but I didn't hesitate when I reached the artist's statement section. Art is truth, I wrote. And sometimes the truth needs to be seen to be believed. I hit submit before I could change my mind. Whatever happened next, I knew one thing. I was done being invisible. The gallery's acceptance email arrived the same morning I found the receipt. Mark had forgotten to clear his browser history. Rookie mistake. 2 nights at the Mountain View Hotel charged to our joint account. The dates matched his business conference from last month. I was still staring at the screen when Mark stumbled into the kitchen, looking hungover despite claiming he'd worked late. Coffee ready? Interesting place, the Mountain View, I said, keeping my voice steady. Their website shows beautiful conference rooms. He froze halfway to the coffee maker. What? I particularly like their couple's spa packages. Though I guess those aren't part of the standard business accommodation. The silence stretched between us like a rubber band about to snap. Mark's face cycled through surprise, anger, and finally settled on something like resignation. Grace, it's not, he started, but my phone buzzed. The gallery wanted to meet today to discuss my submission. I stood up, cutting him off. I have an appointment. Lily's lunch is packed. Don't forget she has dance class after school. Where are you going? His voice had an edge I'd never heard before. Since when do you have appointments? Since I decided to stop pretending everything's fine. I grabbed my car keys. Maybe you should try it sometime. The gallery was smaller than I'd imagined, but warm and inviting. Sarah met me outside, practically bouncing with excitement. They never request meetings for first-time submissions, she whispered as we walked in. This is huge. The gallery director, an elegant woman in her 50s, introduced herself as Evelyn Holloway. My stomach dropped. Richard Holloway's wife. Mark's boss's wife. Your work is remarkable, Evelyn said, leading us to a quiet corner. Particularly storms and secrets. The emotion in those brushstrokes. It's raw. Personal. I thought of the stormy seascape I'd painted after discovering Mark's texts. Art helps me process things. Indeed. She studied me carefully. My husband mentions your name occasionally. Through Mark, of course. The air felt suddenly thick. Did she know about Andrea? About the hotel? I'd like to feature your pieces in our upcoming showcase, Evelyn continued. All 3 of them. They tell a powerful story of transformation and resilience. My phone buzzed again, Mark calling. I declined it. Thank you, I managed. That means more than you know. Leaving the gallery, Sarah grabbed my arm. Grace, this is amazing. But, are you okay? You look pale. Mark's been staying at hotels with her. The words tumbled out. I found the receipts this morning. That son of a, Sarah's phone chimed. She checked it and her expression changed. Oh, God. What? She turned her screen toward me. It was a Facebook post from Andrea, a selfie with Mark at lunch, his arm around her shoulders. The caption read, "Finally ready to stop hiding. Life's too short for secrets." My hands started shaking. When was this posted? 10 minutes ago. Called Mark. Straight to voicemail. I texted, Lily. Dance class. Don't forget. His response came instantly. Already picked her up. We need to talk. Come home. The house was quiet when I arrived. Lily's dance bag sat unopened by the door. She's at my mother's, Mark said from the living room. He looked terrible, tie loose, hair messy. I thought we needed privacy for this conversation. Privacy. I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. Like the privacy of the Mountain View Hotel? I was going to tell you. He ran his hands through his hair. After the promotion came through. Once things were settled. Settled? My voice rose. Our daughter is acting out at school. I found hotel receipts for your affair, and your girlfriend just announced it on Facebook. What exactly is settled? Andrea wasn't supposed to, he stopped, realizing his mistake too late. At least say her name with your whole chest, Mark. I headed for the stairs. I'm getting Lily's overnight bag. Grace, wait. His voice cracked. I'm scared, okay? Everything's falling apart at work. Richard's been watching me like a hawk, and you're suddenly having secret meetings. They're not secret. I'm just finally doing something for myself. I turned back to him. And unlike you, I'm not hiding it in hotel rooms. I left him standing there, my heart pounding but my mind surprisingly clear. In my studio, my paintings waited, witnesses to everything I couldn't say out loud. Soon, thanks to Evelyn, the whole town would see them too. Including Andrea. The morning of my first gallery meeting with Evelyn, I found divorce papers on Mark's desk. Not signed, just printed and waiting. Like a loaded gun left casually in plain sight. My hands didn't shake as I photographed them with my phone. That surprised me. Mrs. Holloway is ready for you, the gallery assistant said, leading me past walls of artwork to Evelyn's office. Through the window, I spotted Mark crossing the street toward the building. My stomach lurched. Grace, perfect timing. Evelyn's smile faltered as she noticed my expression. Is everything all right? Mark's heading this way. I moved away from the window. He doesn't know I'm here. Understanding flickered across Evelyn's face. She pressed a button on her desk phone. Claire, when Mr. Callahan arrives, please tell him I'm in meetings all afternoon. The door opened before Claire could respond. Mark stood there, looking expensive in his tailored suit, Andrea hovering behind him like a shadow. Richard said I'd find you here, he said to Evelyn, then turned to me. Though he didn't mention you'd be meeting with my wife. Ex-wife soon enough, Andrea muttered, just loud enough to hear. The silence that followed felt like glass about to shatter. Evelyn stood, her presence suddenly commanding. Mark, I'm discussing a significant commission with Grace. Unless you're here to discuss art. Commission? Mark's laugh was harsh. Grace doesn't do commissions. She paints in our spare room to keep busy. Actually, Evelyn moved to a covered canvas in the corner, she does extraordinary work. This piece particularly moved our selection committee. She unveiled my painting, the stormy seascape with the lighthouse. But now, seeing it under professional lighting, I noticed details I hadn't consciously included. The lighthouse bore a subtle resemblance to me, standing alone against waves that looked suspiciously like grasping hands. Andrea stepped closer, her confidence wavering. That's intense. It's truth on canvas, Evelyn said simply. The gallery is prepared to offer. No. Mark's voice cracked like a whip. Grace needs to focus on our family right now. On Lily. Interesting timing, I said, finding my voice. Considering the divorce papers on your desk this morning. Andrea's head snapped toward Mark. Apparently, he hadn't shared that detail with her. You went through my desk? His face flushed. You left them out. Like you left your hotel receipts in the browser history. Like Andrea left that Facebook post up for 3 hours before deleting it. I turned to Evelyn. I accept the commission. All terms. Grace, Mark started, but his phone buzzed. Color drained from his face as he read the message. Problem? Andrea asked, touching his arm. Richard wants to see me. Now. He looked up, real fear in his eyes for the first time. What did you do? I didn't do anything, Mark. I just stopped hiding. I gathered my purse, suddenly exhausted. Like Andrea said, life's too short for secrets. Evelyn walked me out, leaving Mark and Andrea in her office. Through the glass, I saw them arguing in harsh whispers. Richard doesn't tolerate scandal, Evelyn said quietly. Especially not from employees gunning for partnership. I never meant to cause trouble with Mark's job. No, but your art told the truth he was trying to hide. She handed me a business card. My personal number. Call anytime. And Grace. She paused. The commission isn't just about the art. It's about supporting artists who dare to stand in their truth. At home, I found Lily in my studio, adding careful brushstrokes to her own small canvas. She'd painted 3 figures, one tall, one medium, one small, standing under a rainbow. Is that us? I asked, sitting beside her. It was. She dabbed more blue paint onto her brush. Now I'm making the tall ones smaller. Like when caterpillars get small in their cocoon before becoming butterflies. I stared at her painting, seeing the wisdom in her 6-year-old metaphor. Sometimes things had to break down completely before they could transform into something new. My phone buzzed with a text from Richard Holloway. My office, 9 a.m. tomorrow. Bring your portfolio. I looked at Lily's painting again, at the shrinking figure under the rainbow, and felt something like hope unfold its wings in my chest. Richard Holloway's office felt like a courtroom, all dark wood and judgment. My portfolio sat unopened on his desk while he studied me with the same intensity I'd seen in Evelyn's gallery. Your husband's been up for partnership for 3 years, he said finally. Did you know that? I shook my head, remembering all the late nights Mark had claimed were for partnership track. He's talented, but lately, Richard tapped my portfolio. Well, let's just say talent isn't everything. Opening it, he revealed my stormy seascape. Unlike this is both talent and truth. I'm not here to discuss Mark, I said, but Richard held up his hand. Andrea's resignation letter arrived this morning. Apparently, she's taking a position at our competitor. He leaned back. The same competitor Mark's been sharing confidential information with. My breath caught. What? Those hotel meetings weren't just personal, Mrs. Callahan. They were professional betrayals. Before I could process this, his office door burst open. Mark stood there, face twisted with rage. You had no right. I had every right, Richard replied calmly. Just as the board has every right to review your correspondence with Bradford and Associates. Mark. Andrea peered behind him, eyes red. You said we'd start fresh there. Together. Pieces clicked into place. Mark hadn't just been planning to leave me. He'd been planning to take our biggest client with him. You're both free to leave, Richard said. Security will escort you out. I watched them go, feeling strangely hollow. My phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. Check your email now. The local arts magazine had featured my upcoming gallery show. The preview included photos of my work, including one I hadn't submitted, an intimate family portrait I'd painted years ago showing Mark, Lily, and me in happier times. The caption read, Rising artist Grace Callahan explores themes of betrayal and redemption. That photo wasn't supposed to be included, Evelyn said from the doorway. She'd appeared so quietly I hadn't heard her come in. Andrea leaked it to the press, along with some creative interpretations of your work's meaning. My phone exploded with notifications. The story was spreading, with Andrea's spin turning my art into a public accusation. Comments flooded in, strangers dissecting my marriage like entertainment. I never wanted this, I whispered. No one ever does, Richard said. But sometimes exposure is the best disinfectant. Back home, I found the house empty except for a note from my mother-in-law. Took Lily for ice cream. She's asking questions about the magazine article. In my studio, I stared at my latest unfinished painting, a woman emerging from shadows into light. But now it felt tainted, twisted by public scrutiny into something vengeful rather than transformative. The front door slammed. Mark's footsteps on the stairs, then his figure in my doorway. Happy now. His voice was raw. You've destroyed everything I built. You destroyed it, I said, not turning around. I just painted the truth. The truth. He laughed bitterly. The truth is I was suffocating here, watching you play at being an artist while I carried everything on my shoulders. Play at being, I spun to face him. I supported your career for years, Mark. I raised our daughter. I buried my dreams so you could chase yours. And now, he gestured at my paintings. Now you're what, some brave whistleblower? The wronged woman getting her revenge through art. No. I picked up my brush, turning back to my canvas. I'm just finally painting my own story instead of living in yours. He was quiet for a long moment. Andrea's leaving for Bradford and Associates tonight. She wants me to go with her. I added a streak of gold to the emerging woman's hair, Lily's color. Then go. Grace. His voice cracked. What are you going to tell Lily? I thought of her painting, the shrinking figure under the rainbow. The truth. That sometimes people need to leave to figure out who they really are. After he left, I stayed in my studio, painting until the light faded. My phone kept buzzing with messages and comments, but I ignored them all. Let them talk. Let them judge. The real story was emerging on my canvas, stroke by stroke, truth by truth. And this time I was holding the brush. The gallery opening should have been my triumph. Instead, I stood in the corner watching my life unravel on social media. Andrea had gone viral with her expose about my art being a calculated revenge campaign, and now reporters lurked outside, hoping to catch the drama they'd been promised. You don't have to do this tonight, Sarah whispered, squeezing my arm. We can postpone. I watched Evelyn greeting guests, steering conversations away from scandal toward artistic merit. If I don't do it now, I'll always be the woman who painted her revenge instead of her truth. Crowd parted and there was Mark with Lily. My heart stopped. She wasn't supposed to be here. Mommy! She ran to me, wearing the dress she'd picked for her school art show. Daddy said I could come see your paintings. Mark's smile was razor sharp. She should see what her mother's been working on, don't you think? Before I could respond, a reporter shouldered past security. Mr. Callahan, how does it feel seeing your private life exposed through your wife's art? Lily's grip on my hand tightened. Why are they talking about our private life? That's enough. Richard appeared, signaling security. But Mark was already moving toward my centerpiece, the lighthouse painting. You want to know how it feels? His voice carried across the gallery. It feels like watching someone rewrite history. These paintings? They're lies. Beautiful lies. Mark, please. I tried to pull Lily away, but she resisted. The real story, he continued, is about a woman so desperate for attention she'd destroy her family for it. The reporter's camera flashed. Lily started crying. That's not true. I shouldn't have shouted, but the words burst out. The real story is about a man who betrayed everything, his wife, his company, his daughter, for his own selfish. Stop it! Lily wrenched free, running toward the exit. She collided with a waiter, sending glasses crashing. In the chaos that followed, I found her huddled in the gallery's back office, hands over her ears. I hate the paintings, she sobbed. I hate them. My chest felt like it was caving in. Baby, I'm so sorry. I never meant. You made Daddy look like the bad monster in my nightmares. She pointed at a sketch visible through the office window, one I'd done of Mark in darker moments. But he's not a monster. He's just sad. Like you're sad. Like I'm sad. The truth in her words hit harder than any viral story or public humiliation. I told myself I was painting truth, but I'd been painting pain and making my daughter carry it. Grace. Evelyn stood in the doorway. The buyers are waiting. We need to cancel it. I stood up, my decision crystallizing. Cancel the whole show. You can't. Mark appeared behind her. Isn't this what you wanted? Everyone's seeing your truth? No. I looked at Lily, then at the paintings that had become weapons instead of windows. I wanted to be seen. But not like this. Not at her expense. Then what was it all for? Question came from Andrea, who'd somehow slipped in during the commotion. I thought of my latest painting, the woman emerging from shadows. I'd been so focused on the emergence, I'd forgotten about the shadows I was casting. It was supposed to be about healing, I said quietly. I forgot that healing doesn't happen in public. Taking Lily's hand, I walked past them all, past the whispers and cameras, straight to my centerpiece. The lighthouse still stood proud against the storm, but now I saw what Lily saw, not strength in solitude, but the cost of standing alone. Take me home, Mommy, Lily whispered. Home. Not the battlefield our house had become, but somewhere new. Somewhere we could all heal, separately, quietly, away from the storm of public judgment. Okay, baby. I kissed her head, feeling the fight drain out of me. Let's go home. Behind us, the gallery erupted in fresh chaos as Mark faced the press alone. But for the first time in months, I didn't look back. Some battles aren't worth winning if the price is your soul. 3 days after the gallery disaster, I found Mark sitting in my darkened studio, staring at my unfinished paintings. The divorce papers lay signed on my workbench. Bradford and Associates rescinded their offer, he said without looking up. Apparently, dating the competition's newest executive while leaking company secrets isn't great for job prospects. I switched on the lights. Empty whiskey glass by his feet. Another in his hand. Where's Andrea? Gone. He laughed hollowly. Turns out she was recording our conversations. building her case for promotion while He gestured vaguely at the chaos around us. Why are you here, Mark? Richard offered me a chance to stay. His voice cracked. Demoted but employed. If I agree to counseling and sign a new non-compete agreement. That's good, right? He stood suddenly, swaying slightly. Good? I lost everything because you had to prove something with your art. Because you couldn't just be happy with what we had. Happy? The word tasted bitter. Like you were happy sneaking around with Andrea? Happy watching me shrink myself to fit your idea of a proper wife? I never asked you to shrink yourself. You never had to. I grabbed the nearest canvas, the woman emerging from shadows. You just dismissed everything that made me me until I started believing I was nothing but your wife, Lily's mother. And now, he gestured at the paintings. Now you're some brave truth-teller? The wronged woman getting her revenge through art. This isn't about revenge anymore. I turned the canvas toward him. Look closer. He squinted at the painting, really seeing it for the first time. The woman wasn't just emerging from shadows. She was reaching back into them, trying to pull something else into the light. That's... His voice faltered. It's us. All of us. I started it the night Lily cried about your special friend. I realized we were all trapped in darkness, you and your lies, me and my anger, Lily and our mess. The fight seemed to drain from him. He sank back onto the stool. I was suffocating, he whispered. The pressure at work, at home. I couldn't be what everyone needed. Neither could I. I set the canvas down gently. But I found my way out through art. What's yours, Mark? He pulled something from his pocket, a worn guitar pick. Remember when we first met? At that open mic night? I nodded. He'd played original songs back then, before corporate life consumed him. Richard said something interesting. Said sometimes we have to lose everything to remember who we really are. He turned the pick over in his hands. I haven't written a song in 7 years. A small sound made us both turn. Lily stood in the doorway, clutching her own painting, the one with the shrinking figure under the rainbow. Is Daddy leaving again? She asked. Mark moved toward her, but I got there first, kneeling down. No, baby. Daddy's finding himself. Just like Mommy did. Through painting. Through music, Mark said softly. If that's okay. Lily studied her painting, then held it out to him. The small person isn't scared anymore. Just changing. Mark took the painting with trembling hands. Something shifted in his face, like clouds breaking after a storm. The papers are signed, I said. But maybe this doesn't have to be an ending. Just a different kind of truth, he finished. Later, after Mark left to check into a hotel, I found a new text from Evelyn. Private showing next month? Just your new work. The real story, not the scandal. I looked at my unfinished painting, the woman reaching back into shadows. It needed something else now. Not just emergence, but evolution. Not just one figure finding the light, but all of us transforming in our own ways. I picked up my brush. This time, I knew exactly what truth looked like. 6 months later, I stood in a different gallery, surrounded by new paintings. No reporters this time, no scandal. Just art lovers studying my latest collection, Metamorphosis. The anonymous buyer is here, Evelyn whispered, appearing at my elbow. The one who purchased your entire first collection. I followed her gaze to a familiar figure studying my centerpiece, the completed woman emerging from shadows. Only now she wasn't alone. Other figures emerged with her, each holding their own light. Hello, Grace. Mark looked different, lighter somehow. Corporate suits replaced by casual clothes, a guitar case slung over his shoulder. These are incredible. You're the anonymous buyer? He nodded. Seemed right somehow. Keeping the original story private where it belonged. Before I could respond, Lily burst in from the children's art room next door, her hands covered in paint. "Daddy, come see my butterfly painting. Mom taught me about metamorphosis," we said together. I watched them head to the children's gallery, where Lily's art hung alongside other young artists. Her recent paintings showed 3 separate butterflies, each emerging from its own cocoon yet flying in formation. "She's healing," Sarah said, joining me. "You all are. Different kinds of healing." I gestured to my new works. "That's what this collection is about." Paintings told stories of transformation, not just escape from darkness, but the courage to bring light back to others still trapped there. Canvas showed figures helping others emerge, sharing their brightness. "Grace," Richard Holloway approached with a younger man. "This is Jason from the Children's Hospital Foundation. He's interested in commissioning a series for their new wing. Art therapy for the families," Jason explained. "Your work speaks to people going through difficult transformations, helps them feel less alone." As we discussed the project, I caught glimpses of Mark through the gallery. He was different with Lily now, more present, more genuine. The weekly therapy sessions were helping, and his new job teaching music gave him the creative outlet he'd denied himself for so long. Later, as the crowd thinned, I found him studying my final piece, a triptych showing 3 stages of metamorphosis. The first panel showed figures in darkness, the second in transformation, and the third— "They're dancing," he said quietly. "In their own lights, but together." "It's not about forgiveness," I said. "Or forgetting." "I know." He touched the frame gently. "It's about becoming who we really are, even if that means becoming something different than before." Lily appeared between us, taking both our hands. "Can we get ice cream?" "All of us." I met Mark's eyes over her head. We weren't those people in the first panel anymore, lost in darkness, hurting each other. We weren't even the ones in the second panel, struggling through painful transformation. We were something new. Not together, but not entirely apart. "Ice cream sounds perfect," I said. As we walked out, Evelyn stopped me. "The hospital commission isn't the only offer. There's serious interest from several collectors. I'll look at the proposals tomorrow." I watched Lily skipping ahead, Mark following with his guitar case. "Tonight's about something else." She smiled knowingly. "Art isn't just about capturing pain, is it? It's about transforming it." In the warm evening light, we walked to the ice cream shop, not as a reunited family, but as 3 people who had found their own ways of shining. Lily chattered about her butterfly paintings, Mark hummed a new song he was writing, and I thought about the hospital commission, about using art to help others find their light. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't in striking back, but in growing beyond the darkness that tried to contain you. And sometimes healing means learning to dance in your own light while celebrating the light in others, even those who once cast the shadows you had to escape. That's the truth I finally learned to paint.
The sound of shattering glass jolted me from my concentration. I looked up from my laptop where I'd been poring over sales figures to see Ethan standing in the doorway of my home office, his face flushed with anger. "For God's sake, Julia! Are you still playing around with that little soap business of yours?" he spat, gesturing wildly at the shards of what used to be my favorite mug scattered across the hardwood floor. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "Ethan, I've told you 1,000 times, this isn't a hobby, it's a successful business that—" "Successful?" He barked out a laugh. "Don't make me laugh. You and your friends buying each other's overpriced lotions doesn't count as success." I felt my cheeks burning. "Actually, we just hit 500,000 in annual sales. I was about to tell you." "Oh, please," Ethan scoffed, rolling his eyes. "Next, you'll be telling me you're some big-shot CEO. Face it, Julia, you're just playing pretend while I'm out there making real money." I stood up, my hands shaking. "I am not playing pretend. I've built this company from the ground up, and it's growing every day. Why can't you see that?" Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Because I'm not blind, Julia. I see what's really going on here. You're so desperate to feel important that you've convinced yourself this little side project actually matters. It does matter, I shouted, surprising myself with the force of my words. Natural glow is my passion, my dream, and it's not just me. We have a team of dedicated employees, loyal customers. Employees? Ethan sneered. You mean those college kids you pay to stuff boxes? Real impressive, Julia. I felt something snap inside me. You know what, Ethan? I'm done trying to convince you. My business is thriving, whether you believe it or not. He stepped closer, his voice low and menacing. Well, maybe it's time you choose between your little fantasy world and your marriage. Because I'm getting real tired of playing second fiddle to a bunch of fancy soaps. My heart pounded in my chest. What are you saying? Ethan's eyes were cold. I'm saying that if you don't get your priorities straight, you might find yourself running that cute little company of yours all on your own, as a divorcee. The word hung in the air between us, heavy and suffocating. I stared at him, searching for any sign of the man I'd fallen in love with all those years ago, but all I saw was a stranger, bitter and small. You don't mean that, I whispered, more to myself than to him. He shrugged, already turning away. Keep telling yourself that, Julia, just like you keep pretending you're some big-shot businesswoman. As he walked out, leaving me alone with the broken pieces of my mug, I felt something shift inside me. The hurt and anger were still there, but underneath it all, a new emotion was taking root. Determination. I looked back at my laptop screen where the numbers didn't lie. 500,000 in sales, a growing customer base, international interest in my products. Ethan might not believe in me, but I knew the truth, and for the first time in years, I allowed myself to imagine a future where I didn't have to constantly defend my dreams. A future where, just maybe, I didn't need Ethan's approval at all. As I bent down to clean up the broken mug, my phone pinged with a new email notification. I glanced at the screen and froze. Subject: Exciting Opportunity International Expansion Proposal. My heart raced as I read the first few lines. This could be it. The chance I'd been waiting for. The validation I'd been craving. But Ethan's words echoed in my mind, along with his thinly veiled threat of divorce. I stood there, torn between my lifelong dream and the marriage I'd fought so hard to keep alive. Little did I know, this email was about to set in motion a chain of events that would change everything. I stared at my phone, heart pounding as I reread the email for the 10th time. An international cosmetics expo in Paris, with a chance to showcase natural glow to buyers from across Europe. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, the kind I'd dreamed about since launching my business. But Ethan's words from our fight last night still echoed in my ears. Choose between your little fantasy world and your marriage. I took a deep breath and dialed the number of my best friend and business partner, Megan. Jules, what's up? Megan's cheerful voice answered. Meg, we got invited to the Paris Expo, I blurted out. It's huge. We could break into the European market. Oh my God, Julia. That's amazing, Megan squealed. When do we leave? I hesitated. That's the thing. I don't know if I can go. What? Why not? Megan's tone shifted from excitement to concern. Ethan, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. He doesn't think the business is serious. He even threatened divorce if I don't get my priorities straight. There was a long pause on the other end. Julia, Megan finally said, her voice firm. You listen to me. This is your dream. Don't let anyone, not even your husband, stand in the way of that. As if on cue, I heard the front door slam. Ethan was home. I've got to go, I told Megan quickly. I'll call you back. I ended the call just as Ethan walked into the kitchen. His eyes narrowed when he saw me. Still playing businesswoman, I see, he sneered. Something in me snapped. Actually, I just got some incredible news. We've been invited to a major cosmetics expo in Paris. It could be huge for natural glow. Ethan's laugh was cold and mocking. Paris? You've got to be kidding me. What, you think you're going to strut around the Champs-Élysées pretending to be some big shot? This is a legitimate business opportunity, I insisted, my voice rising. Why can't you see that? Because it's ridiculous, Ethan shouted. You're embarrassing yourself, Julia. And worse, you're embarrassing me. My wife, gallivanting off to Paris to play with her little soaps while I'm working a real job. I felt tears pricking at my eyes, but I blinked them back. I'm going, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. With or without your support. Ethan's face turned an alarming shade of red. If you get on that plane, he hissed, don't bother coming back. The words hit me like a physical blow, but I stood my ground. Is that what you really want, Ethan? To throw away our marriage over this? He stared at me for a long moment, his jaw clenched. Then, without another word, he turned and stormed out of the kitchen. I sank into a chair, my legs suddenly weak. With shaking hands, I picked up my phone and dialed Megan again. Book the flights, I said when she answered. We're going to Paris. The next few weeks passed in a blur of preparations and icy silence at home. Ethan barely spoke to me, and when he did, it was only to make snide comments about my little trip. But as the day of departure drew closer, I felt a growing sense of excitement and purpose. This was my chance to prove myself, not just to Ethan, but to the world. The morning of the flight, I stood in our bedroom, zipping up my suitcase. Ethan leaned against the doorframe, watching me with cold eyes. So you're really going through with this, he said. I met his gaze. Yes, I am. He shook his head. Don't expect me to be here when you get back. The words stung, but I refused to let him see how much they hurt. I guess we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, I said, my voice surprisingly calm. As I wheeled my suitcase past him, Ethan grabbed my arm. Julia, he said, his voice low and dangerous, if you walk out that door, you're choosing your stupid hobby over our marriage? Is that what you want? I looked into the eyes of the man I'd once loved more than anything in the world, and in that moment I made my choice. No, Ethan, I said, gently but firmly removing his hand from my arm. I'm choosing myself. With that, I walked out the door and into an uncertain future, my heart pounding with fear and exhilaration in equal measure. The Parisian sun streamed through the windows of our booth at the expo, illuminating the colorful array of natural glow products. I took a deep breath, inhaling the sweet scent of lavender and citrus that filled the air. Julia, you won't believe this. Megan rushed over, her eyes wide with excitement. The buyer from Galeries Lafayette wants to meet with us. Today! My heart skipped a beat. Galeries Lafayette was one of the most prestigious department stores in Paris. This could be our big break. That's incredible, Meg, I exclaimed, pushing thoughts of Ethan to the back of my mind. When? In an hour, she replied, glancing at her watch. We need to prepare. The next 60 minutes flew by in a whirlwind of activity. We polished our pitch, gathered samples, and I changed into my most professional outfit. As we made our way to the meeting room, I felt a mix of nerves and exhilaration. The buyer, a chic Frenchwoman named Adeline, greeted us warmly. Bonjour, mesdames. I've heard wonderful things about natural glow. As we launched into our presentation, I felt a surge of confidence. This was my passion, my creation. For the first time in years, I didn't hear Ethan's mocking voice in the back of my mind. Adeline asked thoughtful questions, her interest evident. When we finished, she smiled. I'm impressed. We'd like to start with a trial run in our Paris store. I could hardly contain my excitement. That would be amazing, Adeline. Thank you so much for this opportunity. As we shook hands, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it, focusing on the moment. Back at our booth, Megan and I hugged, laughing with joy. We did it, Jules, she squealed. We're going to be in Galeries Lafayette. I pulled out my phone to share the news with our team back home and froze. 5 missed calls from Ethan. What's wrong? Megan asked, noticing my expression. I shook my head. It's Ethan. I should call him back. Megan's face hardened. Jules, you don't owe him anything, not after how he's treated you. I know, but... I trailed off, torn between my lingering sense of obligation and the newfound freedom I'd been experiencing. Fine, Megan sighed, but I'm right here if you need me. I stepped outside and dialed Ethan's number, my stomach in knots. Well, his voice dripped with sarcasm. The international businesswoman finally has time for her husband. I bit back a retort. What do you want, Ethan? I want you to come home, he snapped. This little adventure of yours has gone on long enough. I took a deep breath. Actually, we just landed a deal with Galeries Lafayette. It's a huge opportunity for natural glow. There was a long pause. When Ethan spoke again, his voice was cold. So that's it? You're choosing your soap business over our marriage? That's not fair, I protested. This is my dream, Ethan. Why can't you be happy for me? Happy, he scoffed. You've embarrassed me, Julia. Everyone's asking why my wife is gallivanting around Paris instead of being home where she belongs. His words hit me like a slap. Where I belong. I belong wherever I choose to be, Ethan, and right now, that's here, growing my business. Fine, he spat, but don't expect things to be the same when you get back. I've had enough of this nonsense. The line went dead. I stood there, phone in hand, feeling a mix of anger and relief wash over me. Megan appeared at my side. You okay? I nodded slowly. You know what? I think I am. For the first time in a long time, I feel free. She squeezed my hand. Good, now, let's go celebrate our big win. As we walked back into the expo, my phone buzzed again. A text from Ethan. I mean it, Julia. Things will be different when you get home. I stared at the message, a chill running down my spine. What exactly did he mean by different? And more importantly, was I ready to face whatever awaited me back home? For now, though, I pushed those thoughts aside. I had a successful business to run, and a whole new world of possibilities opening up before me. Whatever Ethan had planned, I'd face it when the time came. With a deep breath, I stepped back into the bustling expo, ready to embrace my new reality, for better or for worse. The moment I stepped through our front door, I knew something was wrong. The house was eerily quiet, and there was a heaviness in the air that made my skin prickle. Ethan, I called out, wheeling my suitcase behind me. No answer. I made my way to the kitchen, my footsteps echoing in the silence. That's when I saw it. A thick manila envelope on the counter, my name scrawled across it in Ethan's handwriting. With trembling hands, I opened it. The words petition for divorce jumped out at me, and my world tilted on its axis. So, you're finally home. I whirled around to find Ethan leaning against the doorframe, his arms crossed. His eyes were cold, devoid of the warmth I'd once loved. What is this? I demanded, waving the papers at him. He shrugged, a cruel smile playing on his lips. Exactly what it looks like. I told you things would be different when you got back. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Despite our fights, despite his threats, I never truly believed he'd go this far. Ethan, we can talk about this. We can. There's nothing to talk about, he cut me off. You made your choice in Paris, now I'm making mine. This isn't a choice, I shouted, anger finally breaking through my shock. This is an ultimatum. Call it what you want, he sneered. But it's time you faced reality, Julia. Your little soap business isn't going to support you. You need me. His words hit me like a physical blow. After everything, the successful expo, the deal with Galerie Lafayette, he still saw my business as nothing more than a hobby. You're wrong, I said, my voice low and steady. I don't need you, Ethan. I never did. Something flashed in his eyes. Surprise, maybe even a hint of fear. But it was quickly replaced by contempt. We'll see about that. You have 30 days to respond to the petition. I suggest you think long and hard about your next move. With that, he turned and walked out, leaving me alone with the weight of his ultimatum. I sank into a chair, my mind reeling. This was it, the moment that would define the rest of my life. I could give in to Ethan's demands, abandon my dreams, and salvage what was left of our marriage. Or I could stand my ground and face an uncertain future alone. My phone buzzed, startling me out of my thoughts. It was a message from Adeline, the buyer from Galerie Lafayette. Great news. Sales of Natural Glow products exceeding expectations. Interested in expanding to all our stores. Call me to discuss. I stared at the screen, a slow smile spreading across my face. This was the validation I'd been seeking for years. Proof that my little soap business was anything but. With newfound resolve, I stood up and began packing a bag. I couldn't stay here, not with Ethan's ultimatum hanging over my head. I needed space to think, to plan my next move. As I zipped up my suitcase, my eyes fell on a framed photo of Ethan and me on our wedding day. We looked so happy, so full of hope for the future. Where had it all gone wrong? I picked up the frame, tracing Ethan's smiling face with my finger. Then, with a deep breath, I placed it face down on the dresser. Goodbye, Ethan, I whispered. I grabbed my bags and walked out the front door, not bothering to leave a note. Let him wonder where I'd gone. Let him feel a fraction of the uncertainty he'd forced upon me. As I drove away from the house we'd shared for over a decade, I felt a mix of terror and exhilaration. I had no idea what the future held, but for the first time in years, I felt truly alive. My phone buzzed again, another message from Adeline. Julia, are you there? This could be huge for Natural Glow. I smiled, despite the tears streaming down my face. Yes, it could be huge, and I was ready to seize the opportunity with both hands. Whatever came next, I knew one thing for certain. I was done letting Ethan or anyone else dictate my worth. It was time to show the world and myself exactly what Julia Mason was capable of. The gentle hum of my parents' kitchen filled the air as I pored over financial reports spread across the table. My mother placed a steaming mug of coffee beside me, her hand lingering on my shoulder. "You're working too hard, sweetheart," she said softly. I looked up, offering a tired smile. "I have to, Mom. The European expansion is taking off faster than we anticipated." The doorbell rang, cutting through our conversation. My father's voice drifted from the hallway, followed by a familiar, unwelcome tone that made my blood run cold. "Ethan." I stood as he entered the kitchen, his eyes narrowing at the sight of my work materials. "Still playing entrepreneur, I see," he sneered. My mother bristled beside me. "Ethan, that's enough." "It's okay, Mom," I interjected, meeting Ethan's gaze. "What do you want?" He tossed a folder onto the table, scattering my papers. "Your lawyer's been ducking my calls. We need to discuss the division of assets." I felt a surge of anger. "There's nothing to discuss. I'm not signing those papers." Ethan's face reddened. "You can't just ignore this, Julia. We need to settle things." "Settle what exactly?" I challenged, my voice rising. "The house you claim is solely yours? The savings account you control?" He scoffed. "Don't act like you've contributed anything significant. Your little soap hobby barely covers its own costs." Something inside me snapped. I'd had enough of his belittling, his assumptions, his complete disregard for my hard work. "You have no idea, do you?" I said, my voice dangerously calm. I reached for my laptop, pulling up our financial records. "Take a look, Ethan. Really look." His eyes widened as he scanned the screen, taking in the sales figures, the profit margins, the projections for the coming year. This can't be right," he stammered. "Oh, it's right," I assured him. "Natural Glow isn't just covering its costs. It's been the main source of our household income for the past 2 years. The color drained from Ethan's face. "But your little hobby has grown into a $500,000 business," I finished for him. "And that's before the European expansion." My mother gasped softly behind me, and I realized I'd never fully disclosed the extent of my success to my parents either. Ethan's shock quickly morphed into anger. "You've been lying to me all this time?" "No, Ethan," I said firmly. "You just never bothered to listen." He slammed his fist on the table, making us all jump. "This changes nothing. You still abandoned our marriage for your precious business." "I didn't abandon anything," I retorted. "You gave me an ultimatum, and now you're realizing you might have bet on the wrong horse." Ethan's eyes darted around the room like a cornered animal. We can work this out, Julia. We can—" "No," I cut him off, surprised by the steel in my own voice. "We can't. You never believed in me, Ethan. You never supported my dreams. And now that you see what I've built, you want a piece of it?" I stood straighter, feeling stronger than I had in years. "Well, here's my ultimatum. I'll see you in court." Ethan's face contorted with rage. He opened his mouth to speak, but my father stepped forward, his presence commanding. "I think it's time for you to leave, Ethan," he said quietly. For a moment, I thought Ethan might argue. But then his shoulders slumped, and without another word, he turned and left. As the front door slammed shut, I felt the adrenaline drain from my body. I sank into a chair, my hands shaking. My mother wrapped her arms around me. "Oh, sweetheart, we had no idea." "It's okay, Mom," I whispered. "I didn't want anyone to know. I thought if I just worked hard enough, Ethan would finally see." My father's hand rested on my shoulder. "You've nothing to prove to him, Julia, or to anyone." I nodded, wiping away tears I hadn't realized were falling. As the shock of the confrontation faded, a new feeling took its place. Determination. I turned back to my laptop, to the numbers that told the story of my success. "You're right, Dad. I have nothing to prove." I took a deep breath, my mind already racing with plans. "But I have everything to fight for." The boardroom buzzed with excitement as I presented our latest quarterly results. Natural Glow's European expansion had exceeded even our most optimistic projections. As I wrapped up, applause filled the room, and my team's faces beamed with pride. Just as we were about to break for celebration, my assistant burst in, her face pale. "Julia, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but there's an urgent situation downstairs. It's Ethan." My heart plummeted. What was he doing here? I excused myself and hurried to the lobby, my mind racing. As the elevator doors opened, I saw him, Ethan, disheveled and wild-eyed, arguing loudly with security. "Sir, you need to leave," the guard was saying firmly. "Not until I speak to my wife," Ethan shouted, his voice slurring slightly. Had he been drinking? I stepped forward, my voice steady despite my racing pulse. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" He whirled to face me, his eyes bloodshot. "Julia, thank God. We need to talk. Now." I glanced at the concerned faces around us. "Not here. Follow me." I led him to an empty conference room, closing the door behind us. "What's going on, Ethan?" He ran a hand through his unkempt hair. "I've made a terrible mistake, Jules. I want to call off the divorce." I stared at him, stunned. "What?" "I was wrong," he continued, his words tumbling out. "About everything. Your business, your success. I see it now. And I want us to start over." For a moment I felt a flicker of the old longing, but then I remembered all the years of belittlement, of doubt, of feeling small in my own home. "It's too late, Ethan," I said quietly. His face crumpled. "No, please, I'll do anything. I'll support your business, "Stop," I cut him off. "This isn't about the business anymore. It's about us, about how you never believed in me, never supported my dreams." "I can change," he pleaded, reaching for my hand. I pulled away. "People don't change overnight, Ethan, and I'm not the same person I was when we married. I've grown. I've built something I'm proud of, without you." His desperation turned to anger. "So that's it? You're just throwing away our marriage?" "No," I said firmly. "You did that when you handed me those divorce papers." Ethan's face darkened. "You'll regret this, Julia. You think you can run this company without me? You'll crash and burn and I'll be there to watch." A chill ran down my spine at his words, but I stood my ground. "I think you should leave now, Ethan." He glared at me for a long moment before storming out, slamming the door behind him. I sank into a chair, my hands shaking. What had I done? For a brief moment, I wondered if I'd made a mistake. Maybe we could have worked things out. A knock at the door jolted me from my thoughts. Megan poked her head in, concern etched on her face. "Jules, are you okay?" We saw Ethan leave. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "I'm fine. Just processing." Megan sat beside me, taking my hand. "Want to talk about it?" I shook my head. "Not now. We have work to do." As we walked back to the boardroom, my phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "This isn't over. You'll see how much you need me." I stared at the message, a mix of fear and determination washing over me. What did he mean? What was he planning? As I rejoined my team, their excited chatter about our success faded into background noise. I'd fought so hard to get here, to prove myself. And now, just when everything was falling into place, Ethan's threat loomed over it all. Could I really do this without him? Had I made a terrible mistake? As doubt crept in, I looked around at my team, at the empire we'd built together. No, I realized, I hadn't made a mistake. I'd finally taken control of my own destiny. Whatever Ethan had planned, whatever challenges lay ahead, I was ready to face them. Because for the first time in my life, I truly believed in myself. And that, I realized, was worth fighting for. I stared at the email on my screen, my heart pounding. The subject line read, "Urgent, Natural Glow Product Recall." "This can't be happening," I whispered, scrolling through the message. Reports of severe allergic reactions to our newest line of moisturizers were flooding in from across Europe. How was this possible? We'd done extensive testing, followed every regulation to the letter. My phone buzzed incessantly. Calls from retailers, panicked emails from our European distributors. The empire I'd built was crumbling before my eyes. Megan burst into my office, her face ashen. "Julia, have you seen the news? It's all over social media. They're calling it the natural glow nightmare." I nodded numbly, my mind racing. We needed to act fast to get ahead of this before it spiraled completely out of control. As I drafted an emergency press release, my phone lit up with an incoming call. Ethan's name flashed on the screen. I hesitated, then answered. "Enjoying your little crisis?" His voice dripped with malice. My blood ran cold. "Ethan, what did you do?" He chuckled darkly. "Me? I didn't do anything. But it seems your successful business isn't so successful after all, is it?" "You're behind this somehow," I accused, my voice shaking with anger and fear. "Prove it," he taunted. "Face it, Julia. You're in over your head. You always were. It was only a matter of time before it all came crashing down." The line went dead, leaving me reeling. Could Ethan really have sabotaged my products? But how? And why go to such extreme lengths? I had no time to dwell on it. The situation was escalating by the minute. Our stock was plummeting, and I could almost hear the vultures circling. "Julia, the board is demanding an emergency meeting," my assistant called from the doorway, "and there are reporters gathering in the lobby." I took a deep breath, steeling myself. This was the moment that would define everything: my company, my career, my life's work. As I stepped into the boardroom, facing the grim faces of my investors and executives, I felt the weight of it all pressing down on me. For a fleeting moment, I wondered if Ethan had been right all along. Maybe I wasn't cut out for this. Maybe I was just playing at being a businesswoman. But then I thought of all the hurdles I'd overcome, all the times I'd proven him wrong. I'd built this company from nothing, expanded it across continents. I wasn't about to let it all slip away now. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my voice stronger than I felt. "We're facing an unprecedented crisis. But I assure you we will weather this storm." As I laid out our action plan, a full recall, transparent communication with customers, a thorough investigation into our supply chain, I saw a glimmer of hope return to the eyes around the table. Just as I was wrapping up, my phone buzzed again. Another text from Ethan. "Ready to admit defeat yet? It's not too late to come crawling back." His words ignited a fire within me. This wasn't just about saving my company anymore. It was about proving to Ethan and to myself that I was stronger than he ever gave me credit for. I turned back to the board, a new determination in my voice. "We're not just going to survive this. We're going to come back stronger than ever." As I walked out of the boardroom, my mind was already racing with ideas. I'd find out the truth behind this sabotage, clear our name, and rebuild Natural Glow's reputation. Ethan thought he could break me, but he'd only succeeded in making me more determined than ever. This was war, and I intended to win. Little did I know, the real battle was only just beginning. I stood at the podium, cameras flashing, as I addressed the packed press conference. 6 months had passed since the Natural Glow nightmare, and we'd weathered the storm. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my voice steady and confident, "I'm pleased to announce that after a thorough investigation, we've not only cleared Natural Glow of any wrongdoing, but uncovered a deliberate act of sabotage." A murmur rippled through the crowd. I caught sight of Ethan at the back of the room, his face pale. "Thanks to the tireless efforts of our team and law enforcement, we've traced the contamination to a disgruntled former employee who was working in collusion with a competitor." I paused, letting the information sink in. "I'm happy to report that both parties have been arrested and will face criminal charges." As I detailed our comeback strategy, improved quality control, a revolutionary new product line, and a partnership with a leading dermatological institute, I saw the spark of excitement return to the eyes of the reporters and investors present. Natural Glow isn't just recovering, I concluded. We're emerging stronger, more innovative, and more committed to our customers than ever before. The room erupted in applause. As I stepped away from the podium, my lawyer approached, a thick envelope in hand. "It's done, Julia," she said with a smile. "The divorce is final." I took the envelope, a wave of emotion washing over me. It was over. Really, truly over. As the crowd dispersed, I found myself face to face with Ethan. He looked haggard, defeated. "Congratulations," he said, his voice hollow. "You did it. You proved me wrong." I studied him, remembering the man I'd once loved, the one who'd made me doubt myself for so long. "I didn't do this to prove you wrong, Ethan. I did it because I believed in myself, in my vision. Something you never could." He flinched at my words. "I was a fool, Julia. I see that now. I've lost everything. My job, our friends, my reputation. I don't know how to come back from this." For a moment, I felt a flicker of pity. But then I remembered all the years of belittlement, of crushing my dreams. "You'll figure it out," I said, my voice firm but not unkind. "Just like I did when you left me with nothing but my little soap hobby." As Ethan walked away, shoulders slumped, I felt no joy in his downfall. Only a sense of closure, of a chapter finally ending. Megan appeared at my side, grinning from ear to ear. "We did it, boss! We're back on top!" I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in years. "We sure did, but this is just the beginning." Later that evening, as I sat in my new penthouse office overlooking the city, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. The doubts, the fears, the moments of near defeat, but also the triumphs, the growth, the discovery of my own strength. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "We're so proud of you, sweetheart. You showed them all." I smiled, tears pricking at my eyes. Yes, I had shown them all. But more importantly, I'd shown myself what I was capable of. As I looked out at the twinkling city lights, I felt a sense of excitement for the future. Natural Glow was thriving, expanding into new markets. I had a team that believed in me, a family that supported me, and a newfound confidence that no one could shake. Ethan had tried to clip my wings to keep me small and dependent, but in doing so, he'd only pushed me to soar higher than I ever thought possible. I picked up a bottle of our newest product, a rejuvenating serum that was already generating buzz in the beauty world. Natural Glow Resilience, the label read. How fitting, I thought. As I applied the serum, feeling its cool touch on my skin, I made a silent promise to myself. No matter what challenges lay ahead, I would face them with the same resilience that had brought me here. Because I was Julia Mason, CEO of Natural Glow. And I was just getting started.
You spent our savings on what? I gasped, feeling the room spin around me. Gareth, how could you? My husband's face paled as he glanced nervously between me and his parents. The dining room suddenly felt suffocating, the fancy china and crystal glasses mocking me with their extravagance. Now, Stacy, Eula, my mother-in-law, interjected with a saccharine smile. I'm sure Gareth was just thinking of family. Isn't that right, dear? I gripped the edge of the table, my knuckles turning white. My name is Stacy, and I just discovered my husband betrayed me in the worst way possible. It's an investment, Gareth mumbled, avoiding my gaze. Mom and Dad needed a place closer to us, and this condo was perfect. I thought you'd understand. Understand? I hissed, struggling to keep my voice low. You used our entire savings without even talking to me. How is that an investment? Henry, my father-in-law, cleared his throat. Now, let's not make a scene. We're all family here. I laughed bitterly. Family? Is that what you call this? Eula's eyes narrowed. I don't appreciate your tone, young lady. After all we've done for you. Done for me. I cut her off, my voice rising. You've done nothing but undermine me since the day I married your son. Gareth reached for my hand, but I jerked away. Honey, please. Can we discuss this later? No, we can't, I snapped. I want to know exactly how much of our money you spent on this condo. The silence that followed was deafening. Gareth squirmed in his seat, while Eula's smug expression spoke volumes. All of it, Gareth finally whispered. The down payment, it took all of our savings. The room tilted dangerously. I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. I need some air. As I stormed out onto the balcony, I heard Eula's voice drift after me. Really, Gareth? I don't know why you put up with such dramatics. I gripped the railing, gulping in the cool night air. How had it come to this? When had I become such a stranger in my own marriage? The sliding door opened behind me, and Gareth's hesitant footsteps approached. Stacy, I'm sorry. I should have told you. I whirled around, fury blazing in my chest. Told me? You should have discussed it with me. We're supposed to be partners, Gareth. How could you make such a huge decision without me? He ran a hand through his hair, looking lost. They're my parents, Stacy. They needed help. And what about us? I demanded. What about our future? Our son's future? Gareth's eyes widened. Caleb? He's fine. This doesn't affect him. I laughed incredulously. Doesn't affect him? That money was for his college fund, Gareth. For our retirement. For emergencies. We can save again, he said weakly. It's not like we're poor. That's not the point. I exploded. You betrayed my trust. You put your parents before your own family. The sliding door opened again, and Eula's perfectly coiffed head poked out. Everything all right out here? Dessert's getting cold. I bit back a scathing retort, forcing a smile. We'll be right in, Eula. As soon as she disappeared, I turned back to Gareth. This isn't over. We need to have a serious talk about our future. He nodded, relief washing over his face. Of course. We'll figure it out, I promise. But as we rejoined his parents at the table, the sickening realization hit me. This wasn't just about money. It was about loyalty, respect, and the very foundation of our marriage. Eula beamed as she served us each a slice of her famous apple pie. Now, isn't this lovely? All of us together like one big, happy family. I stabbed my fork into the pie, imagining it was something else entirely. Just wonderful, I muttered. As the conversation drifted to inane topics, I found myself withdrawing, observing the dynamics around me with new eyes. Gareth, eager to please his parents. Eula, subtly controlling every aspect of the evening. Henry, passively going along with whatever his wife decreed. And me? I was the outsider, the interloper in this tightly knit family unit. But as I watched Eula manipulate the conversation, steering it towards her latest social triumph, a spark of defiance ignited within me. I wouldn't be pushed aside so easily. I wouldn't let them steamroll over my life, my marriage, my future. So, Stacy, Eula's voice cut through my thoughts. How is little Caleb doing in school? Still struggling with reading, is he? I gritted my teeth, recognizing the subtle jab. Actually, he's made great progress. His teacher says he's one of the top readers in his class now. Eula's smile tightened. Oh, well, I'm sure Gareth's genes are finally kicking in. The Whitmans have always been exceptionally bright. I felt my blood begin to boil, but before I could retort, Gareth jumped in. Mom, did I tell you about the new project I'm working on at the firm? As Eula's attention shifted, lavishing praise on her darling boy, I sat back and observed. The pieces were falling into place, revealing a pattern I'd been blind to for far too long. This wasn't just about money or a condo. It was about control, about keeping Gareth firmly under their influence, even at the expense of his own family. Well, I thought, taking a sip of wine to hide my growing resolve. Two can play at that game. As the evening wore on, I smiled and nodded in all the right places. But inside, my mind was racing, formulating a plan. I wouldn't let them win. I wouldn't let them destroy everything I'd worked so hard to build. This betrayal was just the beginning, but I would make damn sure it was also the end. The moving truck rumbled away, leaving me standing in the shadow of the luxury condo that had swallowed our savings. Caleb tugged at my hand, his eyes wide with excitement. Mommy, look at the big fountain, he exclaimed, pointing to the ornate water feature in the courtyard. I forced a smile. It's nice, sweetie. Let's go see our new home. As we entered the lobby, Eula's shrill voice echoed off the marble floors. There you are. We were beginning to think you'd gotten lost. She swept forward, enveloping Caleb in a suffocating hug. Come to Grandma, my precious boy. I've got your room all set up. It's fit for a little prince. I bristled at her words. We'd agreed Caleb would share a room with us, at least initially. But before I could object, Gareth appeared, laden with boxes. Mom, maybe we should let Stacy and Caleb settle in first, he suggested weakly. Eula waved him off. Nonsense. Family helps family. Now, Stacy dear, I've taken the liberty of unpacking some of your things. I hope you don't mind, but that horrid floral vase simply wouldn't do in the living room. My jaw clenched. That vase was a wedding gift from my late grandmother. Actually, Eula, I'd prefer to unpack my own belongings. Her eyes narrowed for a split second before her saccharine smile returned. Of course, dear. I was only trying to help. You must be exhausted after all that packing. The way she said it made it sound like I'd been digging ditches instead of organizing our life into boxes. I bit back a retort, reminding myself that this was temporary. We just needed to save enough to move out. As the days passed, that goal seemed increasingly distant. Eula's presence was suffocating, her subtle digs constant. She rearranged the kitchen without asking, skiing at my chaotic organization. She scheduled playdates for Caleb without consulting me, always with the children of her country club friends. Caleb needs to socialize with the right sort, she'd say, her tone implying I was somehow deficient in providing that. Even bath time wasn't sacred. One evening, as I was running Caleb's bath, Eula barged in. Oh, good. You're giving him a bath, she said, as if surprised I knew how to care for my own child. I'll take over from here. You look tired, dear. Why don't you go relax? I gripped the edge of the tub. I've got this, Eula. Caleb and I have our own bath time routine. She laughed, a tinkling sound that set my teeth on edge. Don't be silly. I raised Gareth, you know. I think I can handle bathing my grandson. Mom. Gareth's voice came from the hallway. Let Stacy handle it. Come help me with dinner. Eula's lips thinned, but she retreated. As she left, I caught her muttering, I don't know why he puts up with such stubbornness. That night, after Caleb was asleep, I confronted Gareth. This isn't working, I hissed. Your mother is constantly undermining me. Gareth sighed, running a hand through his hair. She's just trying to help Stacy. Can't you try to get along? Get along. I struggled to keep my voice down. She criticizes everything I do. She's taking over Caleb's life. And you just stand by and let it happen. What do you want me to do? He snapped. They're my parents. We're living in their home. A home bought with our money. I reminded him bitterly. The argument ended as it always did, with Gareth retreating to his study and me lying awake, seething. The final straw came a week later. I returned from grocery shopping to find Eula in the kitchen, a smug smile on her face. Oh, good, you're back, she said. I was just telling Caleb about our summer plans. I froze. What summer plans? Why, our annual family vacation to Martha's Vineyard, of course, she replied, as if it were obvious. I've already booked the tickets. Gareth agreed it would be wonderful for Caleb to experience it. The room spun. Our family vacation, the one we'd been planning for months, the one I'd been promising Caleb, was to the Grand Canyon. It was supposed to be just the three of us. We can't afford a trip to Martha's Vineyard, I said through gritted teeth. Eula waved her hand dismissively. Don't worry about that, dear. We'll cover it. After all, what's family for? In that moment, something inside me snapped. I saw with crystal clarity the web Eula had woven, trapping us in a life dictated by her whims. No, I said, my voice steady. We won't be going to Martha's Vineyard. Caleb, Gareth, and I will be sticking to our original plans. Eula's eyes flashed. Now see here, young lady. No, you see here. I cut her off. This ends now. I am Caleb's mother. Gareth is my husband. We are a family, and we will make our own decisions. As Eula sputtered in indignation, I turned to leave the kitchen. At the doorway, I paused. Oh, and Eula? I'll be putting my grandmother's vase back in the living room. I think it'll look lovely there, don't you? I walked away, my heart pounding but my resolve firm. This was far from over, but for the first time since moving in, I felt a glimmer of hope. I would reclaim my family, my life, no matter what it took. The cafe bustled with a lunchtime crowd, but I barely noticed the noise. My hands trembled as I dialed Lana's number, praying she'd pick up. Stacy. Lana's voice crackled through the speaker. Is everything okay? I choked back a sob. Lana, I need help. I can't do this anymore. I'm on my way, she said without hesitation. Where are you? 20 minutes later, Lana slid into the booth across from me, her face etched with concern. I spilled everything, the condo, Eula's manipulation, Gareth's betrayal. Lana listened, her expression darkening with each revelation. Oh, Stacy, she breathed when I finished. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I shrugged helplessly. I thought I could handle it, that things would get better. Lana reached across the table, squeezing my hand. Well, that ends now. We're getting you out of there. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. But how? I don't have any money and Caleb. We'll figure it out, Lana assured me. First things first, we need to document everything. Every snide comment, every manipulation. Build a case. I nodded, determination replacing despair. I can do that. Over the next few weeks, I became a silent observer in my own home. I started a journal, meticulously recording Eula's behavior. The way she accidentally shrank my favorite sweater in the wash. How she scheduled doctor's appointments for Caleb without consulting me. The constant barrage of criticism thinly veiled as concern. Really, Stacy, she'd say, eyeing my outfit. Don't you think you should dress more? Appropriately for a mother? I'd smile tightly, jotting down the exchange later. Each entry fueled my resolve. Gareth remained oblivious, or perhaps willfully ignorant. When I tried to discuss Eula's behavior, he'd brush it off. "You're being too sensitive," he'd say. "Mom's just trying to help." I stopped trying to make him understand. Instead, I focused on Caleb, shielding him as best I could from the toxic atmosphere. One afternoon, as I was helping Caleb with his homework, Eula swooped in. "Oh, let me handle this," she cooed. "Caleb needs a proper education, not just coloring books." I bit back a retort, remembering Lana's advice. Document, don't engage. Later that night, I snuck into the study, using Gareth's computer to research custody laws and financial advice. As I was about to log off, a notification popped up, an email from Eula to Gareth. My finger hovered over the mouse. It was wrong to snoop, but I clicked. "Darling," the email read, "I'm concerned about Stacy's influence on Caleb. Perhaps we should consider more permanent arrangements for his care. After all, blood is thicker than water." My blood ran cold. They were plotting to take my son. The next day, I met Lana at our usual cafe, my nerves frayed. "They want to take Caleb," I whispered, showing her the email I'd forwarded to myself. Lana's eyes widened. "This is serious, Stacy. We need to act fast." She pulled out her phone, scrolling through contacts. "My cousin Evan, remember him? He owns a small business. He's always looking for help. It's not much, but it could be a start." I hesitated. "I don't know, Lana. I haven't worked in years. And what about Caleb?" "One step at a time," she said firmly. "First, we get you some financial independence. Then we tackle the rest." That evening, I returned home with a plan forming. As I entered, I heard Eula's voice from the kitchen. "I just don't understand why she can't be more grateful," she was saying. "After all we've done for her." I paused, listening. "Now, dear," Henry's placating tone replied. "Stacy's trying her best." "Her best?" Eula scoffed. "She's barely fit to raise a child. It's a good thing we're here to guide Caleb properly." My hands clenched into fists. Every instinct screamed at me to burst in, to confront them. But I held back, remembering my goal. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about securing a future for Caleb, free from their toxic influence. I retreated to my room, pulling out my journal. As I documented the overheard conversation, a sense of calm settled over me. For the first time since this nightmare began, I had a clear path forward. The next morning, I called Evan. "I'd love to hear more about that job opportunity," I said, my voice steady. As I hung up, I caught sight of my reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back at me looked different, stronger, more determined. I thought of Caleb, of the life I wanted for us, of the example I wanted to set for my son. No more silent suffering. No more letting Eula dictate our lives. It was time to take control. I picked up my journal, flipping through the pages of documented abuse and manipulation. Soon, very soon, I'd have enough to make my stand. And when I did, Eula, Gareth, and anyone else who tried to come between me and my son would learn just how formidable I could be. The silent rebellion had begun, and I was ready for war. The bell above the door chimed as I stepped into Evan's small bookstore, the scent of old paper and coffee wrapping around me like a comforting blanket. Lana waved from behind the counter, her smile warm and encouraging. "Stacy, you made it," she said, coming around to give me a quick hug. "Evan's in the back. Let me grab him." I nodded, my stomach churning with a mixture of nervousness and hope. This meeting could be the first step towards my independence, away from Eula's suffocating control and Gareth's betrayal. Moments later, a tall man with kind eyes and an easy smile emerged from the back room. "You must be Stacy," he said, extending his hand. "I'm Evan. Lana's told me a lot about you." As we sat down to talk, I found myself relaxing. Evan listened intently as I explained my situation, his expression a mix of sympathy and determination. "Well," he said when I finished, "I could certainly use some help around here. It's not much, but it's a start. When can you begin?" The relief that washed over me was almost overwhelming. "Really?" I can start whenever you need me. We worked out a schedule that would allow me to work while Caleb was at school, without raising suspicion from Eula or Gareth. As I left the store, clutching my new employee handbook, I felt a spark of hope ignite in my chest. That evening, as I helped Caleb with his homework, Eula swept into the room. "Caleb, darling," she cooed, "why don't you let Grandma help you? I'm sure Mommy has other things to do." I gritted my teeth, ready to argue, when an idea struck me. "Actually, Eula," I said sweetly, "I'd love your help. I have some errands to run tomorrow morning. Would you mind watching Caleb until it's time for school?" Eula's eyes narrowed suspiciously, but she couldn't very well refuse. "Of course, dear. Happy to help." The next morning, I left the condo with a spring in my step, my work clothes hidden under a loose sweater. The thrill of my secret rebellion carried me through my first day at the bookstore. As the weeks passed, I found myself blossoming under Evan's patient guidance. The quiet confidence I gained at work began to seep into other areas of my life. I started challenging Eula's passive-aggressive comments, much to her barely concealed fury. One evening, as I was shelving books, Evan approached me with a concerned look. "Stacy, can we talk for a moment?" My heart raced as I followed him to the office. Had I done something wrong? Was he going to let me go? Evan closed the door and turned to face me. "Stacy, I hope you know that you can trust me. I've noticed some things. The way you flinch when your phone rings. How you're always checking the time, worried about being late. If you're in trouble, I want to help." I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Evan said gently. "But I want you to know that you have options. There are resources, people who can help. You and Caleb, you deserve to be safe and happy." His words broke something open inside me. Before I knew it, I was sobbing, spilling out the whole ugly truth about my life with Gareth and Eula. Evan listened without judgment, offering quiet support. When I finished, he handed me a tissue and a business card. "This is a friend of mine," he explained. "She's a lawyer who specializes in family law. I think you should talk to her." I stared at the card, hope and fear warring inside me. "I don't know if I can afford." "Don't worry about that." Evan cut me off. "She owes me a favor. Just think about it, okay?" That night, as I lay in bed next to a snoring Gareth, I turned the lawyer's card over and over in my hands. The thought of leaving was terrifying, but the idea of staying, of subjecting Caleb to this toxic environment for years to come, was even worse. My resolve strengthened as I remembered Evan's words. I deserved to be safe and happy. More importantly, Caleb deserved a mother who was strong enough to protect him. The next morning, I woke early, my decision made. I dialed the number on the card with shaking fingers. "Hello," I said when a woman answered. "My name is Stacy Whitman. I need your help." As I hung up, I caught sight of my reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back at me looked different, stronger, more determined. For the first time in years, I felt a glimmer of real hope. Eula's voice floated up from the kitchen, sharp with displeasure. "Stacy, where are you? Caleb needs his breakfast." I took a deep breath, squaring my shoulders. Let her shout. Let her scheme. I had allies now and a plan. The days of cowering in fear were over. "Coming, Eula," I called back, my voice steady and clear. As I descended the stairs, I felt the weight of my secret knowledge buoying me up. Soon, very soon, I would be free. And neither Eula nor Gareth would see it coming. The tension in the condo was palpable as I walked through the door, my arms laden with groceries. Eula's shrill voice carried from the living room, where she was engaged in a heated phone conversation. "I don't care what it takes," she hissed. "That girl needs to be put in her place." I froze, my heart pounding. There was no doubt who that girl was. As I rounded the corner, Eula's eyes locked onto mine. Her face morphed into a saccharine smile, but the malice in her gaze was unmistakable. "Oh, Stacy dear," she cooed, ending her call. "Let me help you with those bags. You look so tired." I squared my shoulders, meeting her gaze. "I'm fine, Eula. I can manage." Her eyes narrowed at my defiance. Well, if you insist. Though I do worry about your ability to handle everything. Caleb needs a stable environment after all. The implied threat hung in the air between us. I bit back a retort, reminding myself of the lawyer's advice. Document everything, but don't engage unnecessarily. Later that evening, as I was tucking Caleb into bed, Gareth appeared in the doorway. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice low and strained. I nodded, pressing a kiss to Caleb's forehead before following Gareth to our bedroom. "What's going on with you lately?" he demanded as soon as the door closed. "Mom says you've been acting strange, disappearing for hours." I felt a flare of anger. "Oh, your mother says? And what do you think, Gareth? Have you bothered to ask me how I'm doing?" He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in every line of his body. "I'm asking now, Stacy. What's going on?" For a moment, I considered telling him everything: the job at the bookstore, the meetings with the lawyer, my plans to leave. But as I looked into his eyes, I saw only confusion and irritation. No understanding, no remorse for how he'd betrayed me. "Nothing's going on," I said finally. "I'm just trying to be a good mother to our son." Gareth's face softened slightly. "I know things have been tough with the move and all, but Mom and Dad are just trying to help. Can't you try to get along with them?" I laughed bitterly. "Get along? Gareth, your mother is actively trying to undermine me at every turn. And you just stand by and let it happen." His expression hardened. "That's not fair, Stacy. They're my parents. I can't just what?" I interrupted. "Stand up for your wife. Protect your son from their manipulation." Gareth's face flushed with anger. "You're being ridiculous. Mom and Dad love Caleb. They want what's best for him." "What's best for him?" I echoed incredulously. "Like when your mother tried to enroll him in that elite preschool without consulting me. Or when she tells him that Mommy is confused whenever I disagree with her." Gareth's jaw clenched. "You're blowing things out of proportion. Mom is just trying to give Caleb opportunities." I shook my head, a wave of sadness washing over me. This man, who I'd once loved so deeply, was now a stranger to me. "You know what, Gareth? You're right. I am tired of fighting for a place in my own family. Tired of being treated like an outsider in my own home." His eyes widened, a flicker of fear crossing his face. "What are you saying?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "I'm saying that something needs to change. Either you start standing up to your parents and supporting me, or—" I let the unfinished threat hang in the air between us. Gareth's face paled. "Or what?" he whispered. Before I could respond, a knock at the door interrupted us. Eula's voice floated through, sickly sweet. "Is everything all right in there?" I heard raised voices. Gareth shot me a pleading look before opening the door. "Everything's fine, Mom. Stacy and I were just talking." Eula's eyes darted between us, her lips curved in a triumphant smile. "Well, if you're sure. I was just about to make some tea. Would you like to join me, Gareth? We can discuss that business proposal your father mentioned." I watched as Gareth hesitated, torn between staying to finish our conversation and following his mother. In the end, habit won out. "Sure, Mom," he said, avoiding my gaze. "I'll be right down." As they left, I sank onto the bed, a mix of anger and determination coursing through me. This confrontation had made one thing crystal clear: I couldn't count on Gareth to change. If I wanted a better life for myself and Caleb, I would have to make it happen on my own. I pulled out my phone, sending a quick text to Lana. "It's time. Can you help me get everything ready?" Her response came almost immediately. "Absolutely. We're here for you, Stacy. Whatever you need." I took a deep breath, feeling a strange sense of calm settle over me. The storm was gathering, but for the first time in years, I felt ready to face it head-on. Eula and Gareth had no idea what was coming, but they were about to learn that I was no longer the meek, compliant woman they thought they could control. The time for silent rebellion was over. Now it was time for action. The Whitman family's annual garden party was in full swing, the manicured lawn dotted with elegantly dressed guests sipping champagne. I stood at the edge of the crowd, my heart pounding as I clutched the folder containing months of meticulously gathered evidence. Eula's voice carried across the garden, her laugh tinkling like broken glass. "Oh, Stacy dear, do come and join us. We were just discussing Caleb's future." I took a deep breath, steeling myself. This was it, the moment I'd been preparing for. As I approached the group, I caught sight of Gareth, his face tight with tension. He'd been on edge ever since our argument, clearly sensing the shift in our relationship but unable or unwilling to address it. "What about Caleb's future?" I asked, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. Eula's smile was razor-sharp. "Well, we were just telling the Hendersons about that wonderful private school we're considering. The one with the accelerated program." I felt a flash of anger. We'd never discussed any private school. "Oh, and when was this decision made?" Henry cleared his throat uncomfortably, but Eula pressed on. "Now, Stacy, don't be difficult. We're only thinking of what's best for Caleb." "What's best for Caleb?" I echoed, my voice rising. "Like when you tried to enroll him in that elite preschool without consulting me. Or when you tell him that mommy is confused whenever I disagree with you?" A hush fell over the gathering. Eula's face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "I don't know what you're talking about. Gareth, control your wife." But Gareth stood frozen, his eyes darting between me and his mother. I turned to address the stunned guests. "I'm sorry to disrupt your lovely party, but I can't stay silent any longer. For months, I've endured manipulation, gaslighting, and emotional abuse at the hands of my in-laws, while my husband stood by and did nothing." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Eula's face contorted with fury.
"How dare you?"
"After everything we've done for you." "Everything you've done?" I laughed bitterly. "You mean like using our entire savings to buy this condo without my knowledge or consent?" Gasps echoed around us. I opened the folder, pulling out bank statements and emails. "I have proof of every manipulation, every lie. How you've systematically tried to undermine my relationship with my son. How you've belittled and excluded me at every turn." Gareth finally found his voice. "Stacy, please. This isn't the time or place." "When is the time, Gareth?" I demanded, rounding on him. "When were you planning to stand up for me? For our family?" His face crumpled. I didn't know it was this bad. I thought if we just tried harder." "Tried harder?" Eula screeched. "We've bent over backwards to accommodate this ungrateful." "That's enough, Eula." Henry's voice cut through the chaos. For the first time, I saw a flicker of shame in his eyes. We may have overstepped." Eula whirled on him. "Don't you dare side with her. She's trying to turn our son against us." "No, Mom," Gareth said quietly. "Stacy's right. I've let this go too far." The realization that he was finally standing up to his mother should have been satisfying. But it was too little too late. I turned back to the gathered guests, many of whom looked deeply uncomfortable. "I'm sorry you all had to witness this. But I couldn't let the facade continue. The Whitmans aren't the perfect family they pretend to be. They're manipulative, controlling, and willing to destroy their own son's marriage to maintain their illusion of power." Eula lunged forward, her carefully manicured nails clawing at the folder in my hands. "Give me those." "You have no right." "I have every right," I said firmly, stepping back. "These are copies anyway. The originals are safe with my lawyer." The word lawyer seemed to echo across the lawn. Eula's face drained of color as she realized the implications. One by one, guests began to make their excuses and leave. The Hendersons, Eula's closest friends, couldn't meet her eyes as they hurried past. The carefully cultivated social standing she'd prized so highly was crumbling before her eyes. As the last guests departed, leaving only our fractured family on the lawn, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. "Stacy," Gareth pleaded, reaching for my hand. "We can fix this. We can go to counseling, make a fresh start." I gently pulled away.
"No, Gareth. It's too late for that."
"I've already filed for divorce." His face crumpled. But what about Caleb?" "I'm fighting for full custody," I said firmly. "You're welcome to visit, but I won't subject our son to this toxic environment any longer. Eula, who had been uncharacteristically silent, suddenly found her voice. You can't do this. We'll fight you every step of the way. I met her gaze steadily. Go ahead. But remember, I have evidence of every cruel word, every manipulation. Do you really want all of that aired in court? For the first time, I saw fear in Eula's eyes. The realization that her carefully constructed world was falling apart seemed to age her instantly. As I turned to leave, Gareth called out one last time. Stacy, please. I love you. I paused, looking back at the man I'd once built my life around. I loved you too, Gareth. But sometimes love isn't enough. With that, I walked away from the Whitman family, my head held high. The confrontation I dreaded for so long was over, and though the road ahead would be challenging, I felt lighter than I had in years. The storm had broken, and in its wake, I could finally see the promise of clear skies ahead. The pre-dawn light filtered through the curtains as I zipped up the last suitcase. My heart raced, a mixture of fear and exhilaration coursing through my veins.
Today was the day.
The day I'd reclaim my life and my son's future. A soft knock at the door made me jump. Stacy. Lana's whisper came through. It's time. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. Coming, I whispered back. Caleb stirred in his bed as I approached. Mommy, he mumbled, rubbing his eyes. Hey, sweetie, I said softly, kneeling beside him. Remember our special adventure I told you about? It's time to go. His eyes widened with excitement, thankfully still too young to fully grasp the gravity of the situation. As I helped him dress, I sent up a silent prayer of thanks for his resilience. Lana and Evan were waiting in the hallway, their faces a mix of determination and concern. Everything's ready, Evan whispered, taking one of the suitcases. The car's out back. We moved silently through the condo, each creak of the floorboards sending a jolt of panic through me. As we passed Gareth and Eula's rooms, I held my breath, half expecting Eula to burst out and catch us. But the doors remained closed, and soon we were stepping out into the cool morning air. Freedom was so close I could taste it. As Evan loaded the car, a voice behind us made my blood run cold. Going somewhere? I whirled around to find Gareth standing in the doorway, his face a mask of hurt and confusion. Daddy, Caleb exclaimed, oblivious to the tension. Gareth's eyes darted between us and the packed car. Stacy, what's going on? Where are you taking our son? I stepped forward, placing myself between Gareth and Caleb. We're leaving, Gareth. I told you at the party. I can't do this anymore. His face crumpled. But I thought we could work it out. I've been trying, Stacy. I told Mom to back off. It's too late. I cut him off, my voice firm despite the tremor in my hands. You had years to stand up to your parents, to be a partner to me. I can't wait any longer. You can't just take my son. Gareth's voice rose, panic edging into his tone. Mommy, Caleb's small voice came from behind me, tinged with fear. I turned, kneeling to meet his eyes. It's okay, sweetie. Daddy and I are just talking. Why don't you go with Aunt Lana to the car? Lana stepped forward, gently guiding Caleb away. As they walked to the car, I faced Gareth again. I'm not taking him away from you, Gareth.
You can still be a part of his life.
But I won't subject him to your mother's manipulation anymore. Gareth's eyes filled with tears. Please, Stacy. We can fix this. I'll do whatever it takes. For a moment, I felt my resolve waver. This man, for all his faults, was still the father of my child, the man I'd once loved enough to marry. But then I remembered all the nights I'd cried myself to sleep, all the times I'd felt small and insignificant in my own home. I'm sorry, Gareth, I said softly, but sometimes sorry isn't enough. A commotion from inside the house caught our attention. Eula's shrill voice carried through the open door. Gareth? What's going on out there? Panic flared in my chest. If Eula got involved, things could quickly spiral out of control. Go, Gareth said suddenly, his voice barely above a whisper. Before she comes out. I stared at him, shocked. What? His eyes met mine, filled with a mixture of resignation and regret. You're right. I should have stood up to them years ago.
I
don't want Caleb growing up like I did. Tears pricked at my eyes. Thank you, I breathed. Gareth. Eula's voice was closer now. Go, he repeated more urgently. I'll handle Mom. I nodded, turning to run to the car. As I slid into the back seat next to Caleb, I saw Gareth step back into the house, closing the door behind him. Drive, I told Evan, my voice shaky. As we pulled away from the condo, I watched in the rearview mirror as Eula burst out onto the front step, her face contorted with fury. But we were already turning the corner, leaving behind the prison that had been my home for too long. Caleb snuggled into my side, already drifting back to sleep. I wrapped my arm around him, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. You okay? Lana asked softly from the front seat. I took a deep breath, looking out at the brightening sky. For the first time in years, I felt a genuine smile spread across my face. Yeah, I said. I think I am. As we drove towards our new life, I felt a mix of emotions, fear of the unknown, sadness for what might have been, but most of all, an overwhelming sense of hope. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in a long time, I was excited to see where it would lead. The sun peeked over the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant hues of pink and gold. It was a new day in more ways than one, and I was ready to embrace it, with all its challenges and possibilities. Caleb stirred beside me. Mommy, where are we going? I hugged him close, my heart full of love and determination. We're going on an adventure, sweetie. Just you and me. As we drove into the sunrise, I felt the last chains of my old life fall away. We were free, and the future was ours to shape. The autumn breeze rustled through the leaves as I watched Caleb chase a soccer ball across the park. His laughter, carefree and unburdened, was music to my ears. It had been 6 months since we'd left the suffocating confines of the Whitman household, and the change in both of us was palpable. He's really thriving, isn't he? Evan's voice came from beside me, warm and supportive as always. I nodded, a smile spreading across my face. It's like he's a different child. No more walking on eggshells, no more tension in the air. Evan's hand found mine, giving it a gentle squeeze. The gesture, once unthinkable in my old life, now felt natural and comforting. Our relationship had blossomed slowly, built on mutual respect and understanding. As we watched Caleb play, my mind drifted to the events of the past few months. The divorce proceedings had been surprisingly smooth, thanks in large part to the mountain of evidence I'd gathered. Gareth, perhaps finally realizing the extent of his parents' manipulation, had agreed to my terms without much fight. Eula, on the other hand, had not gone quietly. Her attempts to paint me as an unfit mother had backfired spectacularly when my lawyer presented the documented evidence of her behavior. The look on her face as her carefully constructed facade crumbled in the courtroom was something I'd never forget. Penny for your thoughts? Evan asked, pulling me from my reverie. I shook my head, smiling, just reflecting on how much has changed. A year ago, I couldn't have imagined this life. You should be proud of yourself, Stacy, he said softly. What you've accomplished, the strength you've shown, it's incredible. His words warmed me, a far cry from the constant criticism I'd endured for so long. My job at the bookstore had blossomed into a management position, and for the first time in years, I felt valued and respected in my work. Mommy, watch this. Caleb's excited shout drew our attention. We watched as he executed a wobbly cartwheel, his face beaming with pride. That's amazing, sweetie, I called back, my heart swelling with love. As Caleb returned to his game, I noticed a familiar figure approaching from across the park. Gareth, looking somewhat diminished without Eula's overbearing presence, walked towards us hesitantly. Hi, he said, his voice uncertain. I hope it's okay that I came. I wanted to see Caleb. I nodded, feeling a mix of emotions. Of course. He's been looking forward to your visit. Gareth's eyes flickered to Evan, a flash of something, regret? Jealousy? Crossing his face before he schooled his features. You must be Evan. I've heard good things about you from Caleb. Evan stood, extending his hand. Nice to meet you, Gareth. I'll give you folks some space. Stacy, I'll be by the coffee cart when you're ready. As Evan walked away, Gareth turned to me. He seems like a good guy. He is, I said simply. There was no need to twist the knife. We watched Caleb play in silence for a moment before Gareth spoke again. I wanted to apologize, Stacy, for everything. I know it's too late, but I see now how blind I was, how I let my parents control everything. I studied his face, seeing the genuine remorse there. Thank you, Gareth. That means a lot. He nodded, his eyes sad. I've been seeing a therapist trying to understand why I let things get so bad. It's been eye-opening. I'm glad, I said softly, for your sake and for Caleb's. As if on cue, Caleb noticed his father and came running over.
Daddy,
Did you see my cartwheel? Gareth's face lit up as he knelt to hug our son. I sure did, champ. That was awesome. Watching them together, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. This wasn't the family I'd imagined when I'd said, I do, all those years ago, but it was a family nonetheless. One built on honesty, respect, and the hard-won wisdom of experience. As the afternoon wore on, Gareth said his goodbyes, promising Caleb another visit soon. I watched him walk away, feeling a chapter of my life truly close. Evan rejoined us, handing me a steaming cup of coffee. Everything okay? I nodded, leaning into his warmth. Better than okay, actually. I feel free. We gathered our things, Caleb chattering excitedly about his playdate as we headed home. Our home, a modest apartment filled with laughter and love, so different from the cold, oppressive condo we'd left behind. That night, after tucking Caleb in, I stood by the window, looking out at the city lights. The woman reflected in the glass was a far cry from the beaten-down, insecure person I'd been a year ago. She stood tall, confident, her eyes bright with hope for the future. I thought of Eula, her social circle shattered, her control over her son slipping away. Of Henry, finally forced to confront his role in enabling his wife's behavior. Of Gareth, struggling to rebuild his life without his parents' suffocating influence. But mostly, I thought of Caleb, growing up in a home filled with love and respect. Of the lessons he'd learn about standing up for himself, about the power of resilience and self-worth. As I turned away from the window, my eyes fell on a framed photo of Caleb and me, laughing at the beach. It was a simple moment, but it captured everything I'd fought for: joy, freedom, and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her child. The journey had been hard, the battles fierce, but standing here now, I knew without a doubt that it had all been worth it. We had our whole lives ahead of us, full of possibilities and free from the shadows of the past. And I was ready to embrace every moment of it.
The scent of lilies couldn't mask the stench of betrayal. I stood frozen in our bedroom, my trembling hands clutching Tom's phone. The message glared back at me, mocking my years of trust and devotion. Can't wait to see you tonight, lover. Same place, same time. My world crumbled as I sank onto the edge of our bed, the same bed where Tom and I had shared countless intimate moments. Now it felt tainted, a symbol of his deceit. The front door creaked open downstairs. Sarah, I'm home early. Tom's cheerful voice sent a chill down my spine. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the confrontation I never thought I'd face. Up here, I called out, my voice surprisingly steady. His footsteps bounded up the stairs, and he appeared in the doorway, a broad smile on his face. Hey, beautiful. I thought we could? He froze, his eyes darting from my face to his phone in my hand. Who is she, Tom? I asked, my words barely above a whisper. The color drained from his face. Sarah, I can explain. Explain what? I snapped, my composure cracking. How you've been lying to me? Sneaking around behind my back, Tom stepped forward, his hands raised in surrender. It's not what you think. She's just what? I interrupted, standing up. A friend? A colleague? Don't insult me with more lies. He ran a hand through his hair, his eyes pleading. I'm sorry, Sarah, it was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. Didn't mean anything. I echoed, my voice rising. How long has this been going on? Tom's silence was deafening. How long? I demanded. He sighed, shoulders slumping. A few months. The admission hit me like a physical blow. Months. While I'd been pouring my heart into our marriage and my business, he'd been sneaking around with another woman. "I want you out," I said, surprised by the firmness in my voice. "What? Sarah, please, we can work this out," Tham begged, reaching for me. I stepped back, holding up a hand. "Don't touch me. I can't even look at you right now. Just go." "Where am I supposed to go?" "I don't care," I spat. "Your mother's, a hotel, wherever your mistress lives. Just get out of my sight." Tom's face crumpled. "Sarah, please, I love you. It was a stupid mistake. I'll end it, I swear." I laughed bitterly. "Love, you don't even know the meaning of the word." Just then, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen to see a message from Ruth, my best friend. "Hey girl, still on for dinner tonight?" The reminder of my plans with Ruth was like a lifeline. I needed to get out of this house, away from Tom's lies and excuses. "I'm leaving," I announced, grabbing my purse. "When I get back, I want you gone." "Sarah, wait," Tom called after me as I stormed down the stairs. "We need to talk about this." I whirled around at the bottom of the stairs, fixing him with a glare. "There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice, Tom. Now you have to live with it." With that, I yanked open the front door and stepped out into the cool evening air. As I climbed into my car, I could see Tom watching from the window, his face a mask of regret and desperation. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Ruth. "Everything okay? You're usually not this quiet." I took a shaky breath, realizing I'd have to tell her everything, but not over text. I needed a shoulder to cry on, a voice of reason in the chaos my life had suddenly become. As I pulled out of the driveway, leaving behind the shattered remains of my marriage, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Little did I know how right I was, or how much my world was about to change. I slammed the car door shut, my hands still shaking as I gripped the steering wheel. Ruth's worried face greeted me as I stumbled into the restaurant, my eyes puffy and red. "Sarah, what on earth happened?" she asked, pulling me into a tight hug. I collapsed into the booth, the words tumbling out between sobs. "Tom, he's been cheating on me." Ruth's eyes widened in shock. "That bastard! How did you find out?" I recounted the discovery of the text message, the confrontation, and my hasty exit from the house. Ruth listened intently, her face a mix of sympathy and anger. "You did the right thing, honey," she said, squeezing my hand. "You deserve so much better than that lying snake." As we talked, my phone buzzed incessantly. Tom's name flashed on the screen, along with a barrage of text messages. "Sarah, please come home. We need to talk." "I'm sorry. I'll do anything to make this right." "I love you. Don't throw away our marriage." I silenced the phone, shoving it into my purse. "I can't deal with him right now." Ruth nodded. "You need time to process this. Stay at my place tonight." Grateful for her support, I agreed. As we finished our meal, I felt a small surge of strength. I had my best friend, and I had my business. I could get through this. The next morning, I woke to more missed calls and messages from Tom. Steeling myself, I decided it was time to face the music. I needed to go home and figure out what to do next. As I pulled into our driveway, I noticed Tom's car was still there. Taking a deep breath, I entered the house. Tom was sitting at the kitchen table, his head in his hands. He looked up as I walked in, his eyes red-rimmed and desperate. "Sarah, thank God you're home," he said, standing up. "I've been worried sick." I kept my distance, crossing my arms. "I'm only here to talk about what happens next." Tom's face fell. "Please, Sarah. I know I messed up, but I want to make this right. I ended things with her last night. It's over, I swear." I laughed bitterly. "And I'm supposed to just believe you? After months of lies?" "I'll do anything to prove it to you," he pleaded. "Counseling, complete transparency with my phone and email, whatever you need." As much as I wanted to slam the door in his face, a small part of me hesitated. We'd been together for 10 years. Could I really throw it all away? "I need time," I said finally. "I can't just forgive and forget." Tom nodded eagerly. "Of course, take all the time you need. I'll sleep in the guest room. Just please don't give up on us yet." I sighed, feeling the weight of the decision on my shoulders. "I'm not making any promises, Tom, but I won't file for divorce. Not yet." Relief washed over his face. "Thank you, Sarah. I promise I'll earn back your trust." As if on cue, my phone rang. It was a client calling about a last-minute wedding order. Despite the chaos in my personal life, my business was thriving. "I have to take this," I said, stepping away from Tom. "It's for the business." Tom's face clouded. Right, the business. Always the business. I ignored his comment, focusing on the call. As I discussed the details with the client, I couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. My floral designs were in high demand, and I'd built this success from the ground up. Hanging up, I turned back to Tom. I need to go to the studio. I have a big order to fill. He frowned. Can it wait? We need to talk more about us. No, it can't wait, I snapped. Unlike some people, I have responsibilities I can't just ignore. Tom flinched at my words. Sarah, Save it, I cut him off. I'll be back later. We can talk then, if I feel like it. As I walked out, leaving Tom standing helplessly in the kitchen, I felt a mix of emotions swirling inside me. Anger, hurt, confusion, but also a glimmer of something else. Determination. Whatever happened with Tom, I knew one thing for certain. I wouldn't let his betrayal destroy everything I'd worked so hard to build. I never thought I'd be packing up our life to move in with my mother-in-law, but here I was, surrounded by cardboard boxes and shattered dreams. Tom's voice echoed from downstairs as he spoke on the phone. Yes, Mom, we'll be there tomorrow. Sarah's looking forward to it too. I snorted. If he only knew how much I was dreading this move. As I taped up another box, my phone buzzed with a message from Ruth. How are you holding up, hon? Still can't believe you're going through with this. I sighed, typing back. Me neither. But Jane needs help, and Tom insists we're the only ones who can provide it. The truth was I felt trapped. Tom's affair was still a raw wound, and now I was being uprooted from my home and thrust into close quarters with his judgmental mother. It felt like a recipe for disaster. The next day, as we pulled up to Jane's sprawling Victorian house, my stomach churned with anxiety. Tom squeezed my hand, mistaking my tension for concern about his mother's health. It'll be okay, Sarah. Mom's gonna love having us here. I forced a smile, not believing a word of it. Jane greeted us at the door, her frail frame belying the sharp glint in her eyes. Well, it's about time you two showed up. I was beginning to think you'd forgotten about your poor old mother, Tom. Never, Mom, Tom said, embracing her. Sarah and I are here to help, whatever you need. Jane's gaze swept over me, her lips pursed. I suppose you'll have to do, dear, though I can't imagine how you'll manage to keep up your little flower hobby while you're here. I bristled at her dismissive tone. It's not a hobby, Jane. It's my business, and I intend to keep it running. Of course, she waved a hand. Well, come in then. No use standing around like strangers. As we settled into the guest room, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd made a terrible mistake. Jane's presence seemed to loom over everything, her disapproval palpable. Days turned into weeks, and the tension in the house grew thicker. I tried to balance my work with caring for Jane, but nothing I did seemed good enough. One afternoon, as I arranged flowers for a client in the sunroom, Jane's voice cut through my concentration. Really, Sarah, must you clutter up the whole house with your weeds? I can hardly move without tripping over a vase or a bucket. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my temper in check. I'm sorry if it's inconvenient, Jane, but this is my livelihood. I have orders to fill. She sniffed. In my day, a wife's place was in the home, not gallivanting about with flowers. I don't know how Tom puts up with it. Before I could respond, Tom walked in. Everything okay in here? Oh, Tom, Jane simpered. I was just telling Sarah how lovely it would be if she could focus more on the house. It's getting a bit neglected with all her business. I waited for Tom to defend me, to remind his mother that my business was important. Instead, he just shrugged. Maybe you could cut back a bit, Sarah? Just until Mom's feeling better? I stared at him, incredulous. Cut back? Tom, this is our main source of income right now. Or have you forgotten about your little career hiccup? Jane's eyes widened. Career hiccup? Thomas, what is she talking about? Tom shot me a panicked look. It's nothing, Mom. Just a small setback at work. Sarah's exaggerating. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Not only was he failing to support me, but he was also lying to his mother about our financial situation. I'm not exaggerating, I snapped. Tom lost his job 3 months ago. My little flower hobby is what's keeping us afloat. The room fell silent. Jane looked between us, her face a mix of shock and disappointment. Tom's expression hardened, his eyes flashing with anger. Sarah, can I talk to you in private? He growled. As I followed him out of the room, leaving a stunned Jane behind, I realized that the fragile peace we'd been maintaining was about to shatter. and I wasn't sure our marriage could survive the fallout. The tension in Jane's house was suffocating. After the blow-up about Tom's job loss, things had gone from bad to worse. I threw myself into my work, desperate for any escape from the constant criticism and passive-aggressive comments. One morning, as I prepared a large order for a local charity event, Jane hobbled into the kitchen, her face pinched with disapproval. "Still playing with your flowers, I see," she sniffed. "Don't you think it's time you focused on more important things, like taking care of your husband and his poor, ailing mother?" I gritted my teeth, forcing a smile. "This is important, Jane. It's our livelihood." She waved her hand dismissively. "Nonsense. A real wife would be supporting her husband in finding a new job, not gallivanting about with roses and daisies." Before I could retort, Tom walked in, his face haggard from another night of fruitless job searching. "Mom, please," he sighed. "Sarah's business is keeping us afloat right now." Jane's eyes narrowed. "Well, if you'd put half as much effort into finding work as she does into her little hobby, maybe you wouldn't be in this situation." I watched Tom's shoulders slump, feeling a mix of sympathy and frustration. He'd been trying, but his confidence had taken a serious hit. Still, a part of me resented having to shoulder all the responsibility. "I have to go," I announced, gathering my supplies. "Big delivery today." As I headed for the door, Jane called out, "Oh, Sarah, don't forget we have bridge club this afternoon. I told the ladies you'd provide the flower arrangements." I froze, turning slowly. "Bridge club? Jane, I can't. I have 3 weddings to prep for this weekend." "Surely you can spare an hour for family," she said, her tone sickly sweet. "After all, we've opened our home to you." I looked to Tom for support, but he just shrugged helplessly. "Maybe you could squeeze it in, honey? It would mean a lot to Mom." Anger bubbled up inside me. "Fine," I snapped. "I'll be there." The day was a whirlwind of deliveries and last-minute adjustments. By the time I rushed back to Jane's house, I was exhausted and running late. I burst into the living room, arms full of hastily arranged flowers, to find Jane and her friends already deep into their game. "Oh, there you are," Jane said, her tone dripping with disapproval. "We were beginning to think you'd forgotten us entirely." I plastered on a smile, distributing the arrangements around the room. "Of course not, Jane. I wouldn't miss it." As I turned to leave, one of Jane's friends, a sharp-eyed woman named Mildred, spoke up. "Sarah, dear, why don't you join us? Surely your little flower shop can spare you for an afternoon." I opened my mouth to decline, but Jane jumped in. "What a lovely idea. Sarah, sit down. It's time you learned some proper social graces." Trapped, I sank into an empty chair, my mind racing with all the work I was falling behind on. As the afternoon dragged on, I checked my phone constantly, wincing at the mounting messages from clients and suppliers. Jane noticed, her lips pursing in disapproval. "Really, Sarah," she chided. "It's rude to be on your phone during a social gathering. I thought I taught Thomas better than to marry someone with such poor manners." Something inside me snapped. I stood abruptly, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. "I'm sorry, Jane, but I have a business to run, a business that's supporting this entire household right now. I can't sit here playing cards while my livelihood falls apart." The room fell silent, all eyes on me. Jane's face turned red with anger and embarrassment. "Well, I never! Thomas will hear about this disgraceful behavior." As I stormed out of the room, I caught a glimpse of Tom in the hallway, his face a mix of shock and disappointment. But I couldn't bring myself to care. I was done trying to please everyone at the expense of my own dreams and sanity. Locking myself in the guest room, I pulled out my laptop and started searching for apartments. It was time to make a decision. I couldn't keep living like this, torn between my responsibilities and my own self-respect. Something had to give, and I was determined it wouldn't be me. I stared at my laptop screen in disbelief, my heart pounding in my chest. The numbers didn't lie, but I couldn't wrap my head around what I was seeing. There was a significant withdrawal from my business account, money I hadn't touched. "Tom," I called out, my voice shaking. "Can you come here for a minute?" He appeared in the doorway, looking wary. "What's up?" I turned the screen towards him. "Can you explain this? There's $5,000 missing from the business account." Tom's face paled, and I knew instantly. My stomach dropped as he stammered. "Sarah, I can explain. You'd better start talking, I said, my voice ice cold. He ran a hand through his hair, avoiding my gaze. I needed the money for a job opportunity. It's a sure thing, Sarah. I was going to pay it back as soon as I got my first paycheck. I felt like I'd been slapped. You stole from my business? Without even asking me? I didn't steal, Tom protested. I borrowed. It's our money, isn't it? No, Tom, it's not, I snapped. It's my business account. Money I've worked hard for, while you've been sitting around feeling sorry for yourself. His face hardened. That's not fair. I've been trying to find work. By stealing from me? I stood up, anger coursing through me. What happened to the man I married? The one who supported me, who I could trust? Before Tom could respond, Jane's voice called from downstairs. Thomas, is everything all right up there? Tom's eyes darted to the door. We should continue this later, he muttered. No, I said firmly. We're finishing this now. Your mother doesn't get to interrupt every important conversation we have. As if on cue, Jane appeared in the doorway. What's all the commotion about? I turned to her, beyond caring about keeping up appearances. Your son stole money from my business account. Jane's eyes widened, then narrowed. Now, Sarah, I'm sure there's been some misunderstanding. Thomas would never. He did, I cut her off, and I want to know why. Tom looked between us, trapped. Finally, he sighed. It's for a business venture. A friend of mine has a startup, and he offered me a position if I could invest. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So you decided to gamble with my money? Without even discussing it with me? It's not a gamble, Tom insisted. John knows what he's doing. This could be my chance to get back on my feet. John? Jane's voice was sharp. You don't mean John Carlson, do you? Tom nodded, and I saw a flash of fear cross Jane's face. Who's John Carlson? I demanded. Jane's lips tightened. A very bad influence from Thomas's youth. I thought we'd seen the last of him years ago. Tom's face flushed with anger. John's changed, Mom. He's successful now. Successful at what? I asked, a sinking feeling in my stomach. The silence that followed was deafening. Tom couldn't meet my eyes, and Jane looked like she'd aged 10 years in a moment. I can't believe this, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. You've been lying to me, stealing from me, and now you're mixed up with someone your own mother doesn't trust? Sarah, please, Tom pleaded. Just give me a chance to make this right. I looked at him, really looked at him, and realized I barely recognized the man standing before me. This wasn't the Tom I'd fallen in love with, the one I'd built a life with. This was a stranger, one I couldn't trust. I need some air, I said, grabbing my keys and phone. Don't follow me. As I rushed down the stairs, I heard Jane's voice behind me. Thomas, what have you done? I slammed the front door behind me, my mind reeling. As I sat in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel, I knew I had a decision to make. Could I forgive this betrayal? Could I ever trust Tom again? My phone buzzed with a text from Ruth. Hey girl, everything okay? You've been MIA lately. In that moment, I made my choice. I started the car and typed back, No, nothing's okay. Can I come over? I need a friend right now. As I pulled out of the driveway, leaving behind the house that had become my prison, I felt a strange mix of terror and exhilaration. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing for certain. I couldn't keep living like this. It was time for a change, no matter how scary it might be. I sat in Ruth's living room, my hands wrapped around a mug of tea that had long since gone cold. The past few days had been a blur of tears, anger, and sleepless nights on her couch. Sarah, honey, Ruth said gently, you can't avoid going back forever. You need to face Tom and figure out what you're going to do. I nodded, knowing she was right. I don't know if I can trust him anymore. The affair, the lying, stealing from my business, it's like I don't even know who he is anymore. Ruth squeezed my hand. Then it's time to find out. Go home, confront him, and make a decision. You're stronger than you think. With Ruth's words echoing in my mind, I drove back to Jane's house. The knot in my stomach tightened as I pulled into the driveway. Taking a deep breath, I stepped out of the car and walked to the front door. As I reached for my key, I heard voices from inside. Tom and Jane were arguing, their words muffled but their tones clear. I hesitated, then quietly let myself in, following the sound to Jane's study. Can't keep lying to her, Thomas, Jane was saying. Sarah deserves better than this. I know, Mom, but Tom's voice was strained. But if she finds out about everything, she'll leave for good. I can't lose her. I froze, my heart pounding. What more could there possibly be? Jane sighed heavily. You should have thought of that before you got mixed up with John again. And the things you've been saying about Sarah behind her back, it's shameful, Thomas. I couldn't breathe. Tom had been talking about me? To his mother? I was just venting, Tom protested weakly. You know how stressed I've been with losing my job and Sarah's business taking off. Sometimes I feel like she doesn't even need me anymore. So you tear her down to make yourself feel better? Jane's voice was sharp. I raised you better than that, Thomas. I'd heard enough. I pushed the door open, startling both of them. Sarah? Tom jumped to his feet, his face pale. How long have you been there? Long enough, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I think it's time we had an honest conversation, don't you? Jane stood, smoothing her skirt. I'll give you two some privacy. No, I said firmly. You should stay, Jane. I want to hear exactly what Tom's been saying about me. Tom's eyes darted between us, panic clear on his face. Sarah, please, it's not what you think. Then what is it, Tom? I demanded. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been lying to me, stealing from me, and now I find out you've been bad-mouthing me to your mother. What happened to the man I married? I'm still that man, Tom insisted. I've just been lost. Losing my job, watching you succeed while I failed, it's been hard. So that gives you the right to betray me? I felt tears stinging my eyes but refused to let them fall. To make me feel small so you can feel big? Jane stepped forward, her face a mix of sympathy and disappointment. Sarah, dear, Thomas has been struggling. He didn't mean... Don't defend him, Jane. I snapped. For once in your life, see your son for who he really is. Tom's face hardened. That's not fair, Sarah. You don't understand what I've been going through. You're right, I don't, I said. Because you never talked to me. You just lied and cheated and stole. The room fell silent, the weight of everything unsaid hanging heavy between us. I want a divorce, I said quietly, the words feeling both terrifying and liberating. Tom's face crumpled. Sarah, no, please, we can work this out. I'll do anything. It's too late, I cut him off. I don't recognize you anymore, Tom, and I don't like the person I'm becoming by staying in this marriage. As I turned to leave, Tom grabbed my arm. You can't just walk away from everything we've built. I yanked my arm free, anger flaring. Watch me. With that, I stormed out of the room, out of the house, and into the uncertainty of my future. As I drove away, tears finally falling, I realized that this wasn't just the end of my marriage. It was the beginning of my new life, whatever that might look like. The world blurred around me as I drove away from Jane's house, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. I couldn't go back to Ruth's. I needed space to think, to breathe. Without realizing it, I found myself pulling into the parking lot of my old studio, the place where I'd started my business before moving in with Tom's mother. I sat in the car, staring at the familiar storefront, memories flooding back. This was where I'd found my passion, my strength. How had I let it all slip away? My phone buzzed incessantly. Calls from Tom, texts from Jane. I silenced it, unable to deal with their pleas and excuses. Instead, I called my lawyer. Sarah, she answered, I was just about to call you. There's been a development in your case. My heart raced. What is it? Tom's trying to claim half of your business assets in the divorce. He's arguing that since you were married when you started the company, he's entitled to a share. The world tilted on its axis. He can't do that, I whispered. That business is everything to me. We'll fight it, she assured me. But I need you to gather all your financial records, especially from when you started the company. As I hung up, a new determination filled me. I wouldn't let Tom take this from me, too. I unlocked the studio door, breathing in the faint scent of flowers that still lingered. This was my sanctuary, my creation, and I'd be damned if I'd let anyone destroy it. I spent hours combing through old files, piecing together the history of my business. As dawn broke, I realized I hadn't slept, but adrenaline kept me going. I was fighting for my life, the life I'd built with my own two hands. My phone rang again. This time it was Ruth. Sarah, where are you? I've been worried sick. I sighed, guilt washing over me. I'm sorry, Ruth. I'm at my old studio. I needed to think. Well, you better come back soon. Tom's here and he's making a scene. My blood ran cold. What? Why is he there? He's demanding to see you. Says he won't leave until you talk to him. I closed my eyes, exhaustion and frustration overwhelming me. "I'll be right there." The drive back to Ruth's felt like marching into battle. As I pulled up, I saw Tom pacing on the front lawn, looking disheveled and desperate. "Sarah," he called out as I got out of the car, "please just talk to me." I steeled myself, facing him. "There's nothing left to say, Tom. It's over." "You can't do this," he pleaded. "We can work it out. I'll go to counseling. I'll get a job, anything you want." "Anything I want?" I laughed bitterly. I wanted a husband who respected me, who supported me instead of tearing me down, who didn't lie and cheat and steal. Tom's face hardened. "Fine. If that's how you want to play it, I'll see you in court. You think you can just walk away with everything? You've got another thing coming." As he stormed off, Ruth appeared at my side. "Are you okay?" I nodded, a strange calm settling over me. "I am. For the first time in a long time, I know exactly what I need to do." Back inside, I called my lawyer again. "I want to countersue," I said firmly. "Tom stole money from my business account. I want to press charges for embezzlement." There was a pause on the other end. "Sarah, are you sure? This could get ugly." "I'm sure," I replied, my voice steady. "I'm done being the victim. It's time to fight back." As I hung up, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The road ahead would be hard, but I was ready. I'd lost my marriage, my home, and nearly lost myself. But I wouldn't lose my business, the one thing that was truly mine. Ruth squeezed my hand. "What now?" I took a deep breath, feeling stronger than I had in months. "Now we prepare for war. Tom wants a fight, he's got one." The courtroom felt suffocating as I sat, waiting for the judge to return with her decision. Months of legal battles, sleepless nights, and endless worry had led to this moment. Tom sat across the aisle, his face a mask of determination and barely concealed anger. As the judge entered, we all rose. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear her words at first. "In the matter of Mitchell versus Mitchell, I've reached a decision," she began. I held my breath, feeling Ruth's reassuring hand on my arm. "The court finds in favor of Mrs. Sarah Mitchell. Mr. Thomas Mitchell's claim to half of the business assets is denied. Furthermore, the court recognizes the unauthorized withdrawal of funds as embezzlement." Relief washed over me like a tidal wave. I'd won. My business, my dream, was safe. The judge continued, "Mr. Mitchell will be required to repay the embezzled funds in full and face probation for his actions." I glanced at Tom, expecting to see defeat. Instead, his eyes blazed with a fury I'd never seen before. As the court adjourned, he stormed towards me. "You've ruined everything," he hissed. "I hope you're happy, Sarah. You've destroyed our family for your precious flowers." Before I could respond, a familiar voice cut through the tension. "That's enough, Thomas." We both turned to see Jane standing there, her face a mix of sadness and resolve. "Mom?" Tom's anger faltered. "What are you doing here?" Jane straightened her shoulders. "I'm here to set things right." She turned to me. "Sarah, I owe you an apology. I've been blind to my son's faults for far too long. What he did to you, it's unforgivable." I stood there, stunned. This was the last thing I'd expected. "Thomas," Jane continued, her voice firm, "you need help. Real help. Not more excuses or schemes. It's time to face the consequences of your actions." Tom's face crumpled. "But Mom, No, Thomas. Enough." Jane's tone left no room for argument. She turned back to me. "Sarah, I know it doesn't make up for everything, but I want you to know I'm proud of you. You've shown incredible strength and resilience." Tears pricked my eyes. After all this time, to hear those words from Jane, it meant more than I could express. As we left the courthouse, I felt lighter than I had in years. Ruth hugged me tightly. "You did it, girl. You stood up for yourself and won." I nodded, still processing everything. "I can't believe it's really over." "Not over," Ruth corrected with a smile. "Just beginning. Now let's go celebrate your freedom and your thriving business." Weeks passed, and life settled into a new rhythm. My floral design business flourished, and I found joy in my work again. One sunny afternoon, as I arranged a stunning bouquet for a high-profile client, my phone rang. It was Jane. "Sarah," she said, her voice warm, "I hope I'm not interrupting." "Not at all," I replied, surprised but pleased to hear from her. "How are you?" "I'm well, thank you. I wanted to let you know that Thomas has entered a rehabilitation program. He's finally getting the help he needs." I felt a complex mix of emotions, relief, sadness, a touch of lingering anger. "That's good to hear, Jane. I hope it helps him." "Me too," she sighed. "And Sarah?" I wanted to ask, would you be willing to meet for coffee sometime? I'd love to see your new shop and, well, to start fresh. I paused, considering. The old Sarah might have hesitated, might have clung to past hurts, but I wasn't that woman anymore. I'd like that, Jane, I said, smiling. How about next week? As we said our goodbyes, I looked around my shop. My dream realized, my independence affirmed. The journey had been painful, but it led me here, to a life fully my own. I picked up a single rose from my workbench, admiring its resilience and beauty. Like this flower, I had weathered storms and emerged stronger. As I placed it in a vase, I felt a profound sense of peace. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in years, I was excited to see what it would bring. I had faced betrayal, fought for my dreams, and reclaimed my life. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I knew I had the strength to face them, one petal, one day at a time.